computer. And there we go. Folks, welcome back. It's episode 71 of the Archery Geek Outdoors podcast. Again, I'm only looking up here and down there because I've got the computer there. I've got the camera there. Back with guests tonight. And I am so pleased to be joined by Austin and Courtney Motte of St.Joe River Bows in, I believe it's Holt you're in now? Holt in Michigan.
Yep, Holt, Michigan.
I had a look at the map earlier and I was staggered to realise you're actually farther north than parts of Canada.
Yeah, yeah, we are.
Right, so the first thing I've got to do, I have to ask the quintessentially English question. What's the weather like up there?
We got lots of snow.
Yeah, the last couple of days have been snowy. I don't know. It's probably, I think it was when I was in the shop earlier. I think the thermometer said it was about 15 degrees Fahrenheit out. And we got probably 6-7 inches of snow the last couple of days. And I think we got 3 or 4 more coming tonight. So typical February weather for Michigan.
Yeah, so as a Brit, we look at you and think you guys must sit and laugh at us when we get snow because we get half an inch of snow on the ground and the entire country grinds to a halt. A lot of the councils got rid of the plough blades for the gritters. They just send a gritter out and anything more than an inch of snow, the grit can't keep up with. So everything has to stop. Like I say, the idiot councils just decided to scrap all the snow plough blades, and yet you guys, you can have feet of snow and everything just carries on as normal, doesn't it?
We never get anything done if we stop.
For the most part. When we were younger, I mean, I could count on how many times I didn't have to go to school because of snow. And I grew up, me and Courtney both grew up on the east side of Michigan, right on the edge of Lake Huron. And so we get a lot of lake effect snow. And I mean, it seems like nowadays they cancel school because we get an inch of snow. So, I mean, I think that's probably just the world that we live in now. But yeah, they cancel school a lot now. We didn't have that when we were kids, and our winters used to be quite a bit harsher, I feel, than we have nowadays. They're pretty mild.
Yeah. See here, it doesn't even have to snow for them to close the schools. It's just like, oh, it might be a bit cold tomorrow. The Health and Safety Brigade come out and it's, oh, no, they can't go. The little darlings might get cold or might fall over.
Yeah, they might have to toughen up a little bit.
Oh, God, yeah. I say, when I was at school, if it snowed and you were late for school, you were given a rollicking and told, well, you should have started walking earlier, shouldn't you?
Yep.
You know, we used to love going to school in the snow because if everybody behaved, you'd be given an extra recess in the afternoon to go out in a snowball fight. That's all been banned now for health and safety.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of me going reminiscing. Right. Can you give us a bit of background about yourselves?
Yeah, go ahead. You want to go first?
You go ahead.
I can go first. Obviously, my name's Austin Motte. Born and raised in Michigan. I grew up on the east side of the state. Port Huron would be the closest town. So pretty much right on the border of Michigan and Canada on Lake Huron. Grew up out in the country. My parents' property backed up to a very large system of state game land. So I mean, right out my back door, I had fields to play in. I had woods to play in. I had a river to fish in. I had thousands of acres to wander, build forts in, you know, I think kind of the quintessential childhood that boys like to have.
That sounds
not a lot of time spent inside. I am trying to think, either a fifth or sixth generational hunter in my family.
Wow.
Since my family's been here, we've pretty much they homesteaded the property I grew up on, and they all pheasant hunted, deer hunted, and small game hunted, had bird dogs. So I've just kind of grew up in that hunting background and done it my whole life.
That's a real boy's own adventure background, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it was a good life coming up.
So that kind of life over here is so rare. I mean, don't know what it's like over there, but I mean, obviously, I don't. All I know is Michigan, the 11th largest state in the US, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you'd probably find you could drop this entire country I'm into Michigan. You know, over here, the majority of folks live in towns and cities, and as ag- as agriculture's become more mechanized and a lot fewer folks work in agriculture, it tends to be the
Mhm.
rich city folks that move out to the sticks, buy up all the places, either to live there or they buy them as holiday lets or second homes for themselves. And the price of property in rural areas is going through the roof. That it's kids that are born and raised in the country can't afford to stay there because they can't afford to buy a house. So more and more folks are becoming urbanized, and we're losing touch with that rural lifestyle. I mean, hunting over here, in for the largest part, it's a rich man's sport. I mean, we have public land hunting over here. Don't even think about it. You walk into public land with a firearm or a bow, and you're going to have the police helicopter overhead and armed response units rocking up to you. You know, I think over there you're so fortunate to be able to do that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't think it's that different here as far as um, there is a lot of people moving out of the cities that want to live in the country. A lot of, especially near where Courtney and I grew up, a lot of farm fields get sold and then they get subdivided
Yep.
into, 1 acre lots, and they're
Yeah.
building cookie cutter house McMansions on them. And, those people live in the country now, except when, they have to deal with country issues that they don't want to deal with. But I'm sure it's the same over there.
Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, we have some absolutely rabid anti-hunters over here. The stuff they do, it's absolutely ridiculous. And but these are the same people that will walk in. You know, they'll walk into McDonald's and order a burger that's made out of factory farm meat, but they're so against somebody taking a free range animal that's lived the life it's supposed to.
Mhm.
I mean, it's something I really do struggle to wrap my head around. Anyway,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Courtney,
it is interesting.
do you want to introduce yourself, Courtney?
Yeah, I'm Courtney. Grew up in a small town, Giddels, Michigan, on a family farmhouse. So grew up on 10 acres. Kind of free range, the same. You know, we were always outside, playing outside till dark, fishing, doing all the typical outdoor kid stuff. Um, I really didn't start hunting until we met when we were 19. Got into muzzleloading and then a little bit of gun and then started archery. Um, but yeah, typical farm kid.
Yeah. Have you both always shot trad, or has there ever been any compound in there?
We started with compound for a while, and then about 4 years ago was when we really started getting into traditional archery.
About 5 now. Yeah.
Yeah, about 4 or 5.
And I always, my dad started bow hunting when he was legal age, which is 12 at the time here in Michigan.
Yeah.
And recurve bows were the only bows that were around when he was younger. So when we were kids, we always had, dad's old recurves hanging around, and we'd shoot them in the yard and mess around with them. So, I've shot a trad bow a lot of my life. I just never got super serious to it until about 5 years ago. And, well, then I'm here today. So to say it's been a rabbit hole would be an understatement. But no,
Yeah.
archery's always been a part of my life. We've always shot bows. We've always had bows since we were, real young
Yeah.
and stuff. And
What was the hook that got you back to trad from the compounds then?
I guess for me, and I'm a 2-season hunter. I gun hunt, I bow hunt. But bow hunting was always my favorite, and that I think it was just that challenge aspect to it. And I think it just got to the point where stuff, I don't want to say it got easy, um, but it kind of got easy, and the challenge just wasn't there for me anymore.
Yeah.
And my big thing, especially hunting whitetail deer, has always been, and it was just the way I was raised and I was taught to hunt, is to get as close as you can get.
Yeah.
And um, I, the last couple of years I hunted with a compound, it was more of a chore for me because the amount of game meat that we rely on in our diets, um, I had to go bow hunt because I needed the meat in the freezer. And once I started back up shooting a trad bow again, and it's like, man, I'm like a 5-year-old kid again, just flinging arrows. And like my hunting style didn't change that much because my goal was always to, poke them at 8 yards or 10 yards either on the ground or in a tree. So, I mean, I adapted to that fairly quickly. So it didn't really change a lot of the way I hunted, but I think for my mentality and just my style of how I like to hunt, it just adapts so well and it's more natural, I think.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at particularly the influences in the side and the compound side, a lot of the places where they go, it seems to be who can make the longest shot on an animal. Yet with the trad shooters, there's a kudos in who can make the closest shot, who's the most skilled hunt. It's not who's the most skilled shooter, it's who's the most skilled hunter, is who can get closest to that animal to get an arrow off. Is that a fair assessment, or is that just the impression that's given through the various social media channels?
No,
I think it's fair.
No, I think that's a fair statement. I think it's a way cooler story when someone says, "Yeah, I shot him at 7 yards off the ground," compared to, "Oh yeah, I was 20 feet up in a tree and I shot it at 25 yards."
Yeah.
Maybe there's more. Well, I don't want to say there's more skill involved with a long shot because it's just as easy to miss them when they're that close too.
Yeah.
But I think there's more woodsmanship involved with getting that close to an animal and to be able to draw on an animal and to complete a successful shot on one. And I think sadly, just the way hunting is nowadays, at least here in the States, I mean, everybody just gets technology shoved down their throats, and you got to have this because, the one you bought last year is no good, and this one's the best one we've ever made, or you got to have this kind of clothing, or, this kind of blind, and it's not, like when my dad was raised or my grandfather was raised or how I was raised hunting. I mean, you learned about the animal first, and you learned that, what's a rub, what's a scrape. You look at a track, how old is it? Is it a buck? Is it a doe? That kind of thing. And it's a real intimate relationship with that animal when you grow up hunting and learning that way. And I think nowadays, I mean, you've got kids out there. I don't know how many years ago it was now, probably 8-10 years ago now here in Michigan, our minimum age requirements was always 12 years for archery and 14 years old for firearm hunting, and they did away with any kind of minimum age. So in the last part of September every year, we have a youth hunt. So I mean, you've got kids out there that are 5 years old shooting high-powered rifles at deer.
Wow.
And they have to have a parent or a guardian with them. But I mean,
they don't know at that age.
I don't think they understand what they're doing at that age and the significance of what they're doing at that age. And that's kind of the whole push, to get more people into hunting here, because in some parts of our state, we do have an over deer population. In other parts, we don't. And in those parts, of the state that we have too many deer, especially it's mostly in the ag country. So Southern Michigan, big farm areas, they're doing a lot of crap damage. And so they're pushing more and more, deer taken every year, and I think they've just kind of let go of.
Standards are dropped to get more folks shooting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the price of entries dropped significantly.
Yeah.
And in Michigan now anybody can use a crossbow. So I mean, I think last time I looked at it, it's over 50% of the archery harvest is taken with a crossbow.
That's a high proportion, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's almost to the point now where, I mean, we hunt a lot of public land and stuff around us,
Yeah.
and up north, and it's almost, if you see a guy in the parking lot with a compound, it's kind of funny. It's weird. Yet alone when I jump out of the truck and grab my longbow out of the bed and drain it up. But
oh yeah, that must be quite entertaining at times.
There's usually some questions.
Yeah, I mean, over here, bow hunting's completely outlawed. It was the Deer Act. I can't remember. It was the 60s or the 80s. They completely outlawed bow hunting over here. But we are seeing there are areas where deer are getting overpopulated here as well. And folks will say, right, we need a cull. And there are so many folks that I'd swear they think Disney's a wildlife documentary. Of course, oh no, how can you do that? Let Mother Nature sort them out, thinking that Mother Nature's delicate and nice and will give them a peaceful, quiet death. And if I've seen videos of areas where deer are heavily overpopulated, and it's heartbreaking to see them emaciated and just can't get to the feet. And I don't think people realise this. Like I say, we've got this huge anti-hunting culture over here. And I don't think folks realise what's involved in management. You say, well, the bigger deer over here, they've got no natural predators. So these are the same woolly-minded idiots that's saying, well, let's reintroduce wolves and let the wolves predate them. I don't think they realise that then you need something to predate the wolves. Otherwise, when the wolves have taken out the deer, then they're going to come for their pet dogs and cats.
They'll take the pet dog over the deer.
Yeah.
And we have in our Upper Peninsula, where we spend a lot of time hunting and stuff, we have wolves up there, and it's definitely an issue with guys that run like rabbit dogs, and just pets in the backyard, disappear. Yeah. It's an easy, well, it's a territorial thing to begin with, because it's another canine in their territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's when the dog's in the backyard, running around or on the lead, it's an easy snack.
Oh, and especially if it's on a lead or a chain stacked down in the backyard, it's got nowhere to go.
And as far as like coyotes, I mean, we have an abundance of coyotes around us and everywhere in the state. And I think a coyote's diet, they did a study, is like 40% cat. Farm cats and feral cats, and it's easy for them.
Yeah. Does Michigan put a bounty on coyote heads?
Well, until last spring, we could hunt them all year long, just on a base license, and there was no limit. You can hunt them at night. You can shoot them at night with rifles, call them, trap them. But last spring they put kind of a damper on that, and they shut it down for the breeding season, which, I mean, if you're trying to control a population, it's kind of when you want to hunt them. So,
I know.
But yeah, we don't have any bounties on any animals here, but and we can't hunt wolves. We had our wolf management got turned over to the state for like a year or two. We had one hunt in the UP. They closed it, and then they got turned back over to the federal government. So, I mean, our state managers can't even manage that resource now. And I mean, wolves are part of the landscape. I think they're cool to be around. They're cool to see.
Yeah.
But when you have an apex predator on the landscape, I mean, you got to be able to manage it the way that you need to manage it to manage the other resources properly.
Oh yeah, because I mean that's the very thing about it being an apex predator. The only thing to take that wolf out is what? Starvation, disease, or man.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You got three choices, and starvation and disease are a lot nastier deaths than an arrow or a bullet. You know, that is the most humane way to dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Right, we need to talk about St.Joe River bows then. I first heard of St.Joe River bows. There's a podcaster in the States named Angel Garcia, the High Power Archery podcast. He got one of the bows when Tracy was making them and talked about it. And one of my friends was intrigued. Joy, she ordered, I think she'd got 2 or 3 from Tracy, and I believe she's just had another one from you as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, I know she's shooting.
She just ordered a dual shelf.
Yeah, she ordered one of the dual shelves that we had in stock.
Yeah.
And I was kind of sad to let that bow go because I kind of liked having it on the rack when we went to show. So I got to make another one soon.
It's a unique one for sure.
Yeah, no, Joy obviously is an excellent shooter, and we're very proud that she shoots our bows. So
yeah, talked to her quite a few times, and
yeah,
I keep telling her I need to get over there for a 3D shoot one time because it looks like a lot of fun.
It's definitely different from your 3D shooting. 'Cause, I mean, do you shoot ASA, or is that no? That's generally farther south than you, isn't it? Is it IBO up in the northern states?
I'm not a competition shooter. I like to go do stupid things on 3D courses and break arrows and laugh at each other is what we mainly do.
That's me all over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, NFAS, right, both myself and Joy shoots under 2 societies, EFA, the English Field Archery Association, which is our equivalent of your NFAA, and NFAS, the National Field Archery Society. EFA do the same rounds that NFAA do. NFAS is just 3D or paper faces of animals. But from what I understand about ASA out there and IBO, for the trad classes, they tend to be shorter distances, don't they?
Yeah, I think they narrow them down. I think they usually have, traditional stakes at most of those.
Yeah.
And I know they have different classes usually. I know there's usually like a longbow with wood arrow class.
Yeah.
A longbow with any arrow class, and then like a recurve class.
Well, it's similar to that in NFAS, but we don't have separate single string pegs. Your pegs are based on age. So all the adults, whether you're shooting an English longbow, what you call a longbow is what we call an American flatbow over here. The British listeners, because it can get confusing when people are talking longbows, and because I watch so much American stuff, when somebody says to me longbow, I think of the longbow you make rather than the English longbow. I think of our longbow as the English longbow, totally different thing. But whether you shoot an English longbow, flat bow, recurve, compound, Olympic recurve, all adults shoot from the same pegs unless they've put in a wasp peg for sighted archers. And I've been at shoot. In fact, my daughter, when she was about 16, she was shooting one of these core recurves, these 65 quid bows. She'd got it was a 26-pound draw weight. She'd got about a 24-inch draw, and the longest target she had to shoot was 95 yards on the big Reinhardt's moose. In fairness, she got within 3 yards of its feet. So she was over the moon at that. but we don't have we don't have the longer shots just for compound. All adults shoot from the same pegs, and it can be anywhere from like 3 yards out to 80 yards sometimes, which is a real poke. But I'm just transitioning into trad because I'd always shot compound. I've always been fascinated with trad shooters because it was something I could never do, something to do with the hand-eye coordination. I needed a sight pin to put onto something in order to let a shot go. I'm coming into trad now, and I think what it was the relative, I thought relative simplicity of trad bows. It turns out they're anything but simple. You know, they're making compounds look simple. Just choice of strings, you know, endless loops, Flemish twist, which string material do you want? Learning about brace heights, how to arrow tune, and it's kind of it's twisting my brain, but I'm so excited about it. And that mean,
and that's kind of the nice thing about traditional bows is, I mean, you can make them as simple as you want to make them, or you can nerd out as hard as you want to nerd out.
oh yeah,
I mean,
I like
you can
nerdiness.
buy a stock bow, you can buy a set of arrows off the rack, and you can learn to shoot that setup just fine.
Yeah.
And then you got guys that they're worried about brace height, and they're doing oh, if I need to take a half twist out of my string, or I need to take another 16th inch off my arrow, or there's two worlds really, I think, when it comes to traditional archery, as far as the technical side of things sometimes.
Yeah. I quite like that. And when I realised how technical these can be, it's like, wow, it's just opened up a whole new world to me. But I take it you were customers of Tracy's.
Yep.
That was my first bow, was one of Tracy's.
Yep,
That's a hell of a first bow.
Yeah. Kind of came full circle.
I know that's like a compound shooter going in and buying like a top end Matthews, isn't it?
Yeah, I just grabbed one of Tracy's stack bows and kind of went from there.
So, how did it come about that you're now the owners of St.Joe River Bows?
So I actually was calling Tracy one day to discuss an LBC program, another program that we're a part of, and we got to talking, and all of a sudden she had just asked if we would be interested in taking over St.Joe, which kind of blew me away. That was never really a thought or possibility. And I had came out of my office and I looked at him. I said, well, what do you think about buying St.Joe? And he just kind of looked at me, and we went over there and kind of seen the process and looked at the shop and crunched numbers. And next thing I know, we're knee deep and going over there every Friday and training. And he left his job and started training with Tracy full time. And it always kind of something we wanted to do, was own our own business, and something that we were passionate about and working for ourselves. And it kind of honestly just fell in our lap. It's been a whirlwind ever since.
So, had either of you got any experience as bowyers?
I had, before I started working with Tracy, I had made one self bow. It is still together. It still shoots.
Never blew apart.
Never blew. No, I haven't blown it up yet.
Hey, that's a good start anyway.
Which, I think is a small accomplishment in itself. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, see, I grew up, my grandfather was a carpenter. My dad's always been, really good at building, fixing stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, if something broke down or needed repair, you didn't pick up the phone and call somebody and have them do it. We did it,
right.
So I've always kind of been pretty mechanical, pretty good at woodworking, building stuff. So yeah, I mean, once I got in the shop with Tracy, I think she kind of was able to watch me work and just kind of go, okay, I think he can make a go at it. And she'd had several people come in before because she was getting to the point where she would like to hire somebody, because Tracy's getting older and she has grandchildren and she'd like to spend more time with her family and not work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, which I 100% understand. And I mean, she just never could find the right fit or find anybody that could get a handle on things to where, I mean, when you're doing something like that, you can't just show somebody, hey, this is what you got to do, and then walk away and perform another task.
Yeah.
You got to have, I mean, because every step of the process is very crucial when you're building a bow. So, I mean, one little, messed up detail could, I mean, you could take $1,000 bow and have to cut it in half and put it in the dumpster.
Yeah.
So, she just never found that right person. And I think once I started working with her and she kind of saw I was capable, I think that made her feel a lot better about things. Which made me feel good because, confidence is a good thing, especially when you're going into something new like that. And I guess I've never been one of those people that's afraid to ask a question when I'm performing a task, because I'd rather, and when I managed people at my old job, I always told them, I said, if you have a question, please come ask me, because I'd rather you feel like you know what you're doing and you're doing it properly than feel like you're messing something up and feel uncomfortable with the task you're performing. So, I mean, just ask a lot of questions, and, most of the time I figured out, I knew what the answer was, but I wanted more kind of like that reassurance type of thing of, okay, I'm making the right call here, or, because no matter what you're doing, you're going to run into some little problem. You're going to run with some, especially when you're working with natural materials, there's always something goofy that happens, But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it came about. We were going down to Tracy's, 1-2 times a week, pretty much since about this time of year last year. And then Courtney, I only worked 4 days at my job, and Courtney only worked 4 days at her job, or she still works 4 days at her job. But so that gave me a little bit of time to go down and do some training. And then in July, I left my full-time job and I worked out of Tracy's shop 5 days a week for
3 months.
Yeah, about 3 months till everything came to my shop here at home.
I've got to ask, what were your backgrounds before St.Joe River Bows then?
No, I did I still do accounting for an ag and construction company.
Yeah.
So I do numbers all day.
Yeah, and I worked at the same place, and I was a warehouse fulfillment center manager there. I had teams of people that I led, and receiving, shipping, inventory management type stuff.
And that's what was kind of nice with both of our backgrounds. My small business and accounting background, and his, inventory and management and things like that. Kind of.
There's a little crossover, but it was also a massive switch around them, wasn't it, from managing teams to suddenly being you're the person you have to manage. You're the only one you have to manage.
Whenever I run into people and they ask how it's going, it's like, man, I thought I worked for an asshole before, but the guy I work for now is way worse.
Oh, I like it.
But I say that laughingly, and I mean, I had my boss was probably one of the best people I've ever worked for, and we had a good relationship. And I told him that, and he giggled and laughed. And but yeah, no, it's definitely different. I will say managing people nowadays is kind of a struggle, especially getting people to work. Here, especially after COVID and stuff, was kind of a nightmare. I was short-staffed for like 4.5 years, and you just kind of adapt to those things, and everybody's got to put in a little more work and, step up a little bit. But I miss some of the people I worked with, but I don't miss managing people. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I did it for a while, and as much as your ego wants to say, "Go on, be a manager," I got to a point where I said, "You know what? This is something I'm not cut out for." I think I too much wanted to be Mr. Nice Guy and not want to. When you manage people, you're always going to have problems at some point or other, and that I really didn't enjoy, and I let the pressure get to me, so I stepped right back from that. Right. Oh, while I think about it, I have got to get a quick photo of this screen. Down. There we go. I've got to get one for the gram. Oh, I do. I love Instagram, but I always used to make sure I put up so much content, and then it kind of got a little bit started feeling like a job rather than just a pleasure. So it went for a while where I just wasn't posting nearly as much stuff up there. But I'm getting back into it again now. I said I told God it must have been best part of 6 months off from the podcast just because I felt I hadn't got anything to say, and I didn't just want to keep putting stuff out for the sake of putting it out when I wasn't saying anything. I mean, the last episode I did solo, I talked for over an hour, and it's like I didn't felt I'd say anything. And when I put it up, one of the regular listeners, Lee, the trad sniper that's been on here a couple of times, he said, looking forward to this. And I said in the comments, well, I've talked for like an hour and 20 minutes. I don't think I actually said anything. And he just put a row of laughing faces and said, I'll be the judge of that. Thank you.
No, I listened to that one in the your newest one in the shop yesterday. That's kind of the nice things. When I'm working, I can throw on a set of headphones and just kind of catch up on podcasts and go in my own little world for 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I love podcasts. I mean, I love long form. So if I listen to a Rogan, I've got to make sure I've got plenty of time. I mean, some of his are like between 2.5 and 4 hours long, aren't they? And they just go, but they're so random and things go off in so many different directions. I love that kind of stuff. I love listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've got. The feedback I get is I used to do notes and scripts, and unless it's a specific subject that I need to refer to notes, I try and go note free. And the feedback I get is people love it when I just kind of wander off in half a dozen different directions, eventually coming back to where I was.
Oh no, those are definitely the ones I enjoy the most too, because I mean it's almost like you're sitting around a campfire with a bunch of friends and just kind of BSing around. And sometimes when they're scripted, it's just like, okay, we've already touched this point, move on. It's just I think a lot of stuff can get lost that way.
Actually, I like that analogy about like sitting around a campfire with friends, because it is, isn't it? When you think when you sat around with your mates around a fire, it just you never know where the conversation's going next.
Oh no, and it can go on off to weird dimensions, and those are usually entertaining to me.
Oh, I love those kind of conversations. I really do.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to ask you, how long did it take you to decide to go at when you were first asked if you wanted to buy St.Joe? Was it pretty much a yes, this is something we want to do?
Yeah, I don't think it took too much convincing. No. It was more, I, what do they want for the business? Is it something,
the logistics,
is it something that I can feasibly do? And it turned out it was, which was, a blessing. And, I just, I've kind of lived my life kind of safe up until this point.
Yeah.
And, I'm 33 years old. I don't have any children. I own a home. We both have vehicles. You know, if you're going to take a chance, this is probably the time to take a chance.
Yeah.
So here I am.
I know. I've always, regular listeners will know, I've always said I've made an excellent career out of making really crappy career choices. You know, it's no good crying over it. They're my own choices, some I have to live with. But I think it is something to do when you're younger. When say you've got your home, you've got your vehicles, and it's got to be quite a big step to go from that safe environment of knowing you've got a wage coming in every week to suddenly it's not payroll or HR or your boss that's responsible for bringing the money in. You're the person, everything is on you. And I think that would terrify the hell out of me.
That was scary.
It's not super comfortable, you know, when you go and look, well, you know, I'm leaving a decent salary. I'm leaving a job that has good benefits.
Yeah.
You know, bonuses.
Kind of risking everything.
You know, when you're kind of, you know, I wasn't top of the top in the company, but I was a value asset to the company.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I would have stayed, would have I climbed that ladder? Probably, you know, and I guess the chance of being able to do something every day that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I didn't hate my old career. You know, I never woke up and went, shit, I got to go to this place today, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I had good managers. I had good people that worked below me. I just, with the chance of doing something for myself and being able to make all my own decisions has always been super appealing to me. And, you know, and it's not easy. I mean, was there days this fall that you'd look outside and you'd be like, damn, it'd be a good day to be in the woods.
Yeah.
But you're, you know, gluing bows together. Yeah, there was days like that. But, you know, I think it's just, you got to be good at managing your own time.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to, because, I mean, I could have, you know, effed off for 3 months this fall and not done a single thing, but I can't do that. So I'm one of those weird people, like, even if when I was at my old job, you know, we take like a 2-week vacation, you know, by the time of that 2 weeks, it's like, all right, I got to go do something. This is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to be busy.
Well, I think that was always our goal, was something of our own to work for ourselves.
I say that is almost, that is the American dream, isn't it? You know, you've got your own business. You are successful for yourself. You're not making money for a corporation. It's you being successful for yourselves. So, I mean, we're very fortunate over here. We have quite a substantial welfare system over here, but it is being abused to hell at the moment, where if you decided to do that and things didn't work out, there is a state support network you can fall back onto while you get back on your feet. Now, I don't know a lot about that kind of thing in the States, although you don't have anywhere near the level of support that we do over here if things go wrong, do you?
Not really.
Not
And
really.
I mean, really, to be honest, I mean, the only reason Courtney's still working her full-time job is, I mean, she has really good benefits, you know, that we're both on for healthcare and dental and vision and stuff like that. And I probably couldn't swing it if we had to pay for, you know, our own private insurance right now.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the idea, is just to, you know, keep steadily growing the business to the point where, you know, she can come on board full time and, you know, work for us full time and, you know, and be able to afford those things. But yeah, it is a little different here. I mean,
yeah,
it's no different. People here abuse the crap out of, you know, our social services probably just as much as they do there, you know. You know, people my age that have never worked a day in their life and just live off the government. And
Oh, we've
when you
got
try
enough of those over here. Most
you
of them
know,
are
take something
politicians.
from them. It's poor me, poor me. It's like, well, I've had a job since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
You've never paid a dime into the system. So, and I guess that's probably just our mentality here in the States is, growing up, my parents worked for everything they had. They worked full time through the summer, through school to put themselves through college. They
Yeah.
never had assistance, from their parents or, the little bit of money they could get for scholarships or loans for college. It's just, I think it's just a work ethic um, issue that we really have nowadays.
Especially in the last few years.
Yeah, and it's gradually getting worse.
Now that they figured out how to play the system.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I got my first job when I was 15 while I was still at school. Saturdays working in a local off license. I don't know what they call them, an off license in the States, sells wines and beers.
No, it'd just be a party store.
Right. But they were a wholesaler as well. So at 15
Yeah.
years old, I was humping round 11-gallon kegs of beer and crates of wine and all kinds. And I did that every Saturday to get my pocket money. Then worked in quick save like a supermarket on a Thursday night and Friday night after school and all day Saturday. It did get to me when all my mates were out enjoying themselves and I was at work. But then I, I earned money where they weren't earning money. I've worked all the way through my life. I've had a couple of short periods where I've been unemployed. And last year, I took 6 months out. I was in a job I loathed and detested. I was fortunate enough that I'd got money put away. So I took a few months out for myself. I thought, I was 52 at the time, no, 53 at the time. No, 52 when I did it. And I thought, I've worked ever since I was 15. I'm going to just take 3-4 months out for myself and came back feeling so much better for it. But again, never claimed anything off the state. I lived on my savings. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have to go cap in hand to anybody. And I think there's that kind of pride in being self-sufficient that's not there in certainly some of my generation, but the generation the generation coming up now, there are so many of them. They've just got no will to work. They think everybody owes them a living. The world owes them everything. And I think that's absolutely tragic.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's like here. And I mean, Courtney and I did the same thing. I mean, we both worked in a supermarket, after school from high school until we graduated. And, um, I guess the only difference between you and I was I had money, but I still partied. But
when I worked in the supermarket, we used to go out on a Friday night. All the guys I worked with, I was 16 when I started there, and over here the legal age for drinking is 18. But I looked older than I was anyway, and I said my dad knew the folks I worked with in the supermarket, and I said to them on Friday night, "Do you want to come to the pub after work?" So I said to my dad, "Can I go?" He said, "You can." He said, "But if I catch you in any other pub with folks that you don't work with, I will break your legs for you." So I was out and about, but I was on a very, very short leash. And when I turned 18 and wanted to celebrate my 18th there, I had to tell them I was 20 years old. So I wouldn't have been drinking underage for 2 years. I kind of spoiled it a bit. Right, so I'd need to know about your bows course. Joy asked a question on the NFAS Facebook page that I think she might be looking at another one of yours now. You do. Oh, there's something I've got to ask as well. What's the difference between a longbow, an American longbow, an American semi-longbow? An ASL is something I've only started here, and since I've been going down the trad route and looking at all the trad bows.
So an ASL would be, I guess, closer to an English longbow. So there's usually not any reflex deflex into it.
Yeah.
Some of them have some back set to them. Like the one I designed has a little bit of back set to it. So the limbs are, slightly in front of the riser.
Yeah.
Some of them are straight limbed. Some of them are string follow. So, I mean, it's about as close to as like a traditional longbow as you're going to get before you step into an English longbow.
Yeah.
Most of them have shelves and, real narrow grips. Not a lot of, contour to the grip. They can have a little bit of a dish to them, or they can be a straight grip. So, I mean, it's about as simplistic as you can get as far as a longbow goes. With like an R&D longbow, I mean, you're getting that extra pop from having that reflex and deflex in the limb. So you're getting more energy out of your limbs.
Yeah.
And it's closer, it's kind of the same concept as a recurve, but it's still a longbow.
Yeah. I was about to say, what's an R&D? Is that a reflex deflex?
Reflex deflex.
Never remember. Is it reflex where it comes off the riser, deflex on the tips, or is it deflex off the riser, reflex on the tips?
So you're having, oh boy, now you're going to confuse me.
Sorry.
Reflex off the riser, deflex off the tips.
Yeah. I mean, you posted some photos the other week of almost like a rainbow-coloured riser, and that was absolutely stunning.
Which one was that one?
Hang on a minute. Right, I used to use this as a webcam. Now I use it as a webcam. This is why I do this, so I can do a quick fly back.
We do, especially a lot with our youth longbows. We use a lot of Spectraply, which is laminated birch. And then, like each layer can be dyed a different color. So those are pretty popular, especially with our youth bows. I mean, we make a lot of adult, recurves and longbows with it too, because I mean, some of them are super pretty. And the nice thing is everyone you make's a little different because of how it's cut and sanded, and you can get down into those different layers of color.
There we go. Terrain camo.
Oh yeah, that terrain camo. Yeah. It's got the green and the maroon, and that's
our newest one.
That's one of our newest colors we started using.
I don't know if I'm going to hold this up. I don't know if the webcam will pick this up.
Yep, that's the one I made for my buddy's son. That one came out really nice.
That is absolutely stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, and then
the orange one's cool too.
Yeah, then we put green glass on the back and the belly of that one, and I just told my buddy, I said, if you set down in the woods, good luck finding it, because that thing's gonna disappear.
Don't joke about that. It's got to be 6-7 years ago at the club. I love shooting mixed groups. Like I said, I always shot compound, and I was shooting with a couple of guys with English longbows, and every time the one put his bow down, his mate moved it to the next tree along, and he'd turn around and like, where's my bow gone? And it's just on the tree. Well, he moved it. I mean, bear in mind, our club wood is only like 2 acres, and there's only like half a dozen trees around this target we're shooting. He moved it, and do you think any one of us could find this damn longbow? We were really starting to panic, thinking, oh God, we're going to have to buy him a new bow here.
A little splash of color somewhere.
Oh, that's always fun. Sometimes when you're shooting 3D, somebody in the group will say, everybody hangs their bows up and goes down and pulls arrows out of the target, and somebody will grab somebody's bow and hang it up in a branch somewhere.
That's right. I just love messing around in the woods. You cannot beat it. I wish I'd discovered 3D archery when I was a kid, of course. running around the woods with a bow and a big knife strapped to your belt for digging arrows out of trees. It's 10-year-old me would have been in my absolute element doing that. I
Oh,
absolutely
and
loved it.
I don't know how it is there, but I mean here, I mean if you go out and just shoot with a bunch of trad guys, I mean usually you can't shoot worth a damn because you're laughing so much or teasing each other or you know. But we went to a shoot last spring and took our nephews with us and went with a group of friends that have a bunch of younger kids and stuff at their club, and it was their spring turkey shoot. So all the turkeys were 3D turkey targets,
Nice.
and there was some guys ahead of us that were all shooting compounds, and they got to walk up to the stake and then put their binoculars up and then use their rangefinder, then dial their pin in.
A 20-minute process.
And then it takes them 45 seconds to lay the string down. And it's like, man, that doesn't look like that much fun to me. No one's laughing or joking. It's all quiet. It's like you're on the golf tee, but it's I think it's definitely two different worlds when you get out there with compound guys and trad guys. And I guess I haven't shot a lot of mixed in the last 4 or 5 years, but we'd probably annoy them quite a bit.
I've always enjoyed shooting mixed groups. I mean, if I shoot an EFA competition, then they tend to put you in with your own class. So you'll be put with other compound shooters. I mean, I was amazed at the dots. I thought we were quite slow that day. We came in and we were the 5th group in. I think the slowest group was about an hour behind us, and that was the trad shooters. We just put it down to them looking for arrows behind the targets. But NFAS, you shoot mixed groups, and I love shooting mixed groups. I like to learn about the bows other people are shooting, and I don't go out there to win medals, which is a bloody good job because I'm fairly crap at that anyway. But I go out to meet new people, make new friends, and just have fun in the woods shooting bows. I just love the flight of the arrow. Mm-hmm. But the downside of a compound is they shoot that damn fast you can't see the flight of the arrow. I love watching trad shooters shoot. And it's always coming from a compound background where I've got that fixed draw length with the draw stops where I put my pin on, I've got the release aid. That was a science that did it. And it was always science to me. When I watch trad shooters shoot, because it's something I couldn't wrap my head around, it was like the magical bow fairies do it. You're either blessed with magic or you're not blessed with magic. It's some people can just hit anything they shoot at. And it ever since I started shooting, it's just fascinated me watching trad shooters. And I was so envious of trad shooters, but now I'm going down the single string route. But like the bows, compounds, machined aluminium, glass limbs. Yeah, my single stringer. I've got Uka carbon fiber limbs and an aluminium riser. But it's the way I've always described it, how it appears to me is compound shooting's a science, single string shooting's an art.
I can see that. And I will say, I probably didn't realize it till, I started shooting trad again, that when I was shooting a compound, I had terrible target panic.
Yeah.
And I just never realized it. And, for most of my time shooting a compound, I shot a single pin, and it was good from, 10 yards to 30 yards,
Yeah.
And I mean, once that pin floated over where I wanted that pin to float over, it was getting punched. And
going full Mike Tyson on it.
Yeah. And I think honestly I'm a better shot now with a trad bow than I probably ever could have been with a compound.
Yeah. I mean, for me with the compound, I was in my head. There was too much going on between, the sights and just everything.
Yeah. I,
Way more relaxed with trad.
I think that's one of the things don't get me wrong, I still love shooting a compound, but I hadn't got that same love, that same intensity in the last 6, 12 months. It was seeming to wane a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And at one of the EFA shoots last year, I was talking to one of the guys, a really, really good compound shooter, and he said he just got bored of it. So he went out and bought himself, is it the Elite Flex? Elite's new recurve bow.
Mm-hmm.
Went out and bought one of those, and it just re-sparked everything. And so I was planning on buying a new compound bow this year, but then I recorded with Maddie. I'd recorded with Lee before, and I'd started having a play with a couple of the single stringers down at the club. Just, can I try shooting that, please? And realizing that if I can figure out where I need to put the point of the arrow, I can kind of be somewhere near where I want to be. I'm not missing bosses at 20 yards.
Mhm.
And that was kind of, I'd started thinking, like I say, I'd originally planning on buying a new compound this year. And then after I recorded with Maddie, I thought, fuck this. Oops, sorry.
No,
I get potty mouthed at times.
you're not going to offend us.
No.
Down. I sod this. I'm gonna give single string a go.
Mhm.
And I thought I'm gonna do it on a budget. Well, that budget went out the window. I spent twice my budget just on the limbs. And then I started looking at trad bows, and I I used to think compounds were expensive, but damn, trad bows. But
You can get
com-
up there.
compounds, it's all done by machines. You've got the investment in machines to do it. You have to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a little hair floating around on the top of my microphone sock. Really aggravating. But what you do, it's all human labor, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
I
Mhm.
mean, right now I do everything by hand. I shape a riser by hand. Everything
I've
is done by hand. And
seen,
there's companies out there that, use CNC machines in their processes. And I mean, that's definitely a help. And especially when you're more of like a mass produced,
yeah,
you know, to where, I can build two of the same model bow and there's going to be slight differences in the riser and
yeah.
you get them as close as you can get them. And would people be able to tell? Probably not. But since I'm doing it, could I tell? Yep. This one, this, um, but going back to, the compound going to a trad bow, I think that's just the natural progression for an archer, to be honest. I think it's that next challenge, that next step of, you know, of challenging yourself to do something harder, to become better at something you're not good at.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least that's kind of what it was for me. The compound, like growing up and when I was younger, we shot bows all summer. We went to 3D shoots. We did, I mean, when you're a kid in the summertime, you don't have school. That's what you did for a lot of the days. You shot bows and arrows, or you went fishing, or you ran around outside. But
Yeah.
as you get busier and as an adult, I mean, shooting a compound, we might go shoot a 3D course, once or twice a year, and then bring them out, a month before season and start making sure everything's dialed in and tuned up and ready to roll for for deer season. But
Yeah.
I mean, with a traditional bow, I mean, it's I mean, especially in the summertime, I mean, we shoot every day after dinner out in the backyard.
Yeah.
We've got one of those bona fide targets with the dartboards on it. So after dinner, we go play a couple games of darts with each other. And, you know, I don't shoot inside in the wintertime at home. We do a traditional league on Sunday night at a local club, but I just never had that with a compound where I felt where I just never went, let's go shoot bows.
Yeah.
Kind of a like you're waiting for the end of the day type of situation, so you can go, grab a bow and fling some arrows. And I think that's just the natural progression for somebody that's, truly in love with archery, is just to take that next step and, do that next challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That almost seems a reverse of what we do in everything else in life. Of course, in everything else in life, we start with the simplest thing and we want to move forward into bigger, better, faster.
Mm-hmm.
With archery, the challenge is to come slower and simpler.
For some
Mm-hmm.
people, I think that's true. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
You know.
I'll admit, as a compound shooter, I was an absolute gear junkie, and it's so easy to get sucked in
Yep.
by the marketers that if you buy this bow, you're going to shoot 30 points more than you did with that bow. And if you buy this sight or this scope, and I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, what difference does a scope make? It's a little round tube you're looking through with a pin in it. That's it.
Right.
You know, you look at some of the scopes now, $300 and $400. And I'm thinking, this is just getting absolutely crazy. It's getting insane, the amount of
Mm-hmm.
money. But
Oh,
we all
yeah.
fall victim to this. And then last weekend, Bodie Turner blew every marketing man out the water. I don't know if you see, did you see what he did? Do you follow Joel or Bodie on social media?
I followed Joel a little bit. I don't. Was it Vegas shoot last weekend?
No, that was the weekend before. Bodie rocked up at a
Okay.
shoot and somebody gave him a Matthews Genesis bow and said, see how you get on with that. And he shot a 327X with a Matthews
Yeah.
Genesis. And that just blows the marketing man out of the water. So it's not, it really isn't the $2,000 carbon fiber Hoyt or your $1,700 Matthews. It's this soggy squidgy bit that's behind the bow that makes a
Yeah.
difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idiot behind the string that can make the difference, and that's. I mean, like, in growing up, I always had friends that, they bought the new Matthews, they bought the new, bow every year. And I always hunted with, I mean, I always mostly I shot Hoyts for the most part. I shot a Martin when I was probably 12 to 16. I hunted with a Martin compound, but I mean, I had the same bow for 5, 6, 7 years sometimes. And then I guess I've kind of always been in that aspect of life of, like, if it ain't broke, why are you trying to fix something, know? And I mean, it comes down to that human element too. I mean, you always kind of joke at like a 3D shoot or a competition shoot, and you see this, 70-year-old guy walking up with a bare bow, that he's had since 1972.
Yeah.
Watch out for that guy, because he's had one bow his whole life.
Oh, yeah. He's
And I
never gonna know
guarantee
that
you can
bow
shoot
inside
it.
out.
Yeah, it's just, it's, those guys that, I've had this bow since I was 14 years old, and I don't need a new one. This one works perfectly fine. You got to watch out for those old guys sometimes, because
Yeah.
they're dead eyes, and,
Well, I've been watching a lot of the ETAR videos last few weeks, and when they go around and say, right, what are you shooting? What are you shooting? What are you shooting? And I said in the last episode, there doesn't seem to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all like new bows. New bow day is the greatest day ever. And the correct number of bows to own is X+1, when X is the number you currently own.
yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be the drive in trad. You see it with Olympic recurve, I think, but not so much. See, I can never get the difference between trad and Olympic recurve. They're just single string bows. With the kind of bows we're talking about, there doesn't seem to be the drive that a company has to put out a new model with slight tweaks every year. They've got models that work and work well, and they're happy with them. And because they work well, people will buy them. Where in the compound side of things, there does seem to be this drive that every year you have to have the newest, fastest, lightest, flashiest bow with the most bells and whistles on it. And it seems the opposite in trad. People will find a bow that works and keep it. And if they're looking for a new bow, they know the bowyer, they'll go back to that bowyer, or there'll be another bowyer they want to try. But you look at the ETAR, so those ETAR videos, Yeah, I bought this one in 1975. I've had this one since 1993.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
folks, if they want a new bow, they might not go out and look for the newest, flashiest. They'll look for something vintage, something they wanted as a kid. You know,
Yep.
how often do you hear of compound shooters going out and saying, well, this compound is around 20 years ago. I really want one of those. I'll go and buy that to shoot 3D or target this year. It seems an alter. I wanted to catch some right flack for this, but it seems the trad side seems less marketing man driven, less bullshit driven, and more wholesome and organic, if you know what I mean. Does that make any sense?
Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, I 100% agree with that, and I think part of the reason for like the compound side of it of having the new bells and whistles every year. It's like, I mean, realistically, the way a compound bow is built nowadays, I mean, they can last a long, long time. How do you get that guy to go drop another $1,500 next year on a new bow?
Yeah.
Um, and there's the same thing. I mean, there's people with cars that have to have a new car every year too,
Mm-hmm.
and but I think with traditional bows, not only okay, most bowyers, I mean, they're lucky to have one or two guys working with them. I mean, most of them are just a guy in a shop like I am,
Yeah.
with some, Courtney comes and helps in the shop whenever she can. But I mean, the amount of time and work it would take to bring out a new model every year, by the time you figure out a design, build a form, figure out, okay, this angle doesn't work, build another form, it's just not
realistic.
it's not realistic, the amount of time it goes to make a new model and prototype it and work out all the little kinks with it. um Shit, we got custom orders we got to fulfill, and we got stock bows we got to build. We don't have 200 guys with engineering degrees working for us where we can say, okay, this is your project this quarter. you know it's just and a lot of it is too is like, if it's not broke, why would you fix it? I mean,
Yeah.
look at the amount of guys, when you go to a 3D shoot here that are shooting bare bows from the 1970s. They're shooting, a lot of bows from the 80s, the 90s, widows from the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. It's just, and it's like one of those things. You get comfortable with it. You might, you learn its little quirks or how you got to hold it, or, what arrow it likes, or, and stuff like that. And I think it's just, you get comfortable with something. Why would you want to change to something new? And there's guys out there, I mean, I just call them bow horse because that's what they are. They buy a new bow every couple months.
Yeah.
And then they sell the last one they bought. And I mean, I will say it's pretty much impossible to own just one trad bow. So if you think you're just going to own one, I've got news for you. That's not going to happen. Because you always want to try something different, or, but it's just, yeah, I think guys kind of, they know what they like. And, and I will say, I mean, most trad shooters, I'm going to call them old school.
Yeah.
Some of them can be very set in their ways, and, hey, I've been doing it this way for 40 years. Why would I change what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And it's just, and they're right. I mean, there's guys out there that are shooting bows that they got when they were 12 years old, and, they're putting animals on the ground religiously every year.
Yeah.
And why would you change something up that you don't have to?
Oh yeah, if it's putting meat in the freezer, it's putting meat in the freezer. Simple as that.
Right. And especially when it comes to, I think a lot of the vintage bows, I think it is what you said. It's a lot of nostalgia. It's, hey, I wanted that bow when I was 12 years old, but we couldn't afford that one, so I got a cheaper version. Now that I have, time and money, I can buy that bow I wanted when I was a kid. And that's, I think, a lot of it here too, like in Michigan, when Bear was up in Grayling, the amount of people I know,
forgotten that. They were
a lot of people I know that,
weren't they?
Yeah, they're down in Jacksonville now, or Gainesville, sorry.
Yeah.
And they remember going into bear archery and grailing and going through the museum and meeting Fred and when they were kids, and that was like meeting one of your idols, and you want to shoot what Fred shot, or have that bow you saw at the store when you were 10 that your parents couldn't afford to buy you at the time.
Yeah.
And, because back then bear was, they were a mass produced bow, but they were more of the premium mass produced bow compared to like a Pearson or some of the other bows. And and that's a lot of our history here in Michigan, is just the archery history that we have, and that's why we have a lot of collectors here in Michigan, and a lot of, in the summertime, I can literally drive an hour any direction from my house and go to a 3D shoot, and most of them are traditional only.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hard part about it. It's like, well, where are we going this weekend?
Yeah. We can spend every weekend at a shoot.
I can spend every weekend at a 3D shoot and camp there, and basically spend, most shoots are, I don't know, maybe $10 for a weekend pass, $10-15 for a weekend pass, and like sometimes camping's included for free, or camping's $10 a night, or it's just
where else could you get a weekend of entertainment for $10?
And that's what it is. It's just that's it's kind of a blessing and a curse with Michigan, because like Courtney and I are both on the board of directors for Michigan Traditional Bow Hunters, and
oh wow,
like we have our big shoot every summer, camping and raffles, and and it's kind of like, oh crap, what weekend can we have it this year, because we're trying not to interfere with another shoot that's a half hour away, or step on anybody's toes, and you just got to try to figure out those things that are going to draw a crowd to your event, opposed to saying, oh no, we can't come this weekend, we went here last weekend, type of thing. But especially nowadays, it seems like people are so busy with their kids. And not that, at one point my parents had 3 kids playing ice hockey, and we all played pretty much 3 sports throughout the year, but they didn't cater to us like they cater to kids nowadays. I feel, if my dad wanted to go do something, or my mom wanted to go do something, they were going to go do it. They'd work around, hey, so-and-so's taking you to practice tonight, we're going to do this, or type of situation. But if people are they're so busy nowadays, I feel like, and I guess I'm no different. I can tell you what I'm pretty much doing every weekend for the next 6 months, but a lot of that's business related for us. So
yeah.
So
if you need us, you need them just like 4 months out.
Yeah.
I've got to. How long does it take to make a bow? So I know when Joy's ordered hers, they've all been kind of like 9 months lead times, and then you look at the likes of Black Widow. There, 9 to 12 months. I had a friend order a Dryad from Stalker. He was told 3 months. In the end, it took 9 months. I don't know how. I know how compound bow building works. Just CNC machines, load them up. They'll do this riser 1 week, that riser the next week, a run of that. When you're building trad bows, how many will you be working on at once, and how long does it take to build a bow? Like I say, this I have. I said to you about a conversation, a discovery. This is I'm trying to educate myself here. So you two are now the teachers.
I guess I wish I knew how many man hours it takes to build a single. Well, I probably don't want to know how many man hours it takes to build a single bow. If I broke down the wage, but
suddenly realize you're working for $5 an hour.
Yeah. But usually I've got 4 to 5 on the go during a single week. I try to get 4 to 5 done in a week, start to finish, and it's kind of what I shoot for. So like right now on customs, I think I'm about 6 months out on custom orders right now,
Yeah.
which is kind of what I'd like to keep it. And that's pretty much what Tracy, tried to keep it. Now, like when you go to like Kalamazoo or Compton or an ETAR, when you're getting hammered with orders in a single weekend,
Yeah.
stuff, obviously stuff gets pushed back a little bit because you can only make so many bows in a week. And, but yeah, right now I'm about 6 months out. And, but yeah, I shoot for 4 to 5 bows in a week, start to finish.
The biggest thing is the spray, the amount of time it takes to dry. And
yeah, and that's, the finish aspects. I mean, you're at least 2.5 to 3 days and just spray and finish by the time you spray and let it dry and, buff it down and then apply, 4 coats in total is what we do. So
will you work almost like a production line where you'll, right now, I'm trying to think of the videos I've watched for bow making. Is it laying up?
Yeah, layup. Yep.
Yeah. Will you say lay up so many at a time, then move on to the next stage, or how does it work? Like I say, I'm completely, it sounds terrible to say, but I am ignorant to this. I don't know how it works in a commercial environment. I've only ever watched people build bows for themselves, or
Right.
factory tours of the big compound makers where they've got all the CNC machines going on and whole production lines.
Yeah, so usually like on a Monday, I'll start, get all the risers cut out, get them all shaped, cut glass to lengths, cut lambs, run all my lambs to thicknesses, the laminations in the bow, and try to get them all glued up and in the hot box that day. And then, the next day is, doing tips and overlays on them, putting them back in the hot box. And then usually by Wednesday, I'm cutting them out to shape, cutting grips, cutting sight windows, putting radiuses on shelves and sight windows. And then, pretty much, sanding and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I do is I kind of take, the batch I'm working on, and they're all kind of going through those same steps in the same day. So if like, today I'm, doing rough shaping and sanding, then that's pretty much what I'm doing all day.
Yeah.
On that group of bows that I'm working on.
As well as, like you said, as well as your custom bows, you've got you keep a certain number of stock bows as well, don't you?
Yeah, we try to. The problem with stock, well, I guess it's a blessing and a curse because usually once I get something made to go on the website, especially with like youth bows around like Christmas time, like I didn't put any stock youth bows on the website because
we got demolished.
I wouldn't even have it finished yet, and it was sold. Wow. And it was Christmas time was good for us. It was just I couldn't make them fast enough, basically, and and then what we didn't get, sold at Christmas. People, if we didn't have what they wanted, they just placed a custom order, which kind of put me, trying to build stock to take to like Kalamazoo and stuff like that. It's like, well, I got to work on these custom orders and build a couple stock that I can here and there. But, you can't, in my opinion, you can't lay off a stock order or a custom order to build a stock bow. Yeah. So, at least in my eyes for the customer, I try, they're my priority. Mm-hmm. So, like right now I've got my customs that I committed to for this month. They're getting their last coat of finish tonight. So the rest of the month I've got to mess around with some custom order youth bows and then build some stock adult bows for the shows that are coming up and get some stock on the website.
This is what I've noticed about the States, that the level of customer service you receive from American companies compared to some of the companies over here, it's like in the States, customer's king.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, it's very much some of the places you can go to, treat you as though they're doing you a favor, letting you buy from them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas every company I've dealt with in the States, they treat you like absolute damn royalty. You come away thinking, man, I'm the most important person in the world here. And that's what I love about dealing with American companies. They just the experience. I mean, when I had Maddie on, she said exactly the same. When she went over to ETAR last year, she was just blown away by the friendliness and the level of service that she got everywhere she went. I mean, the media over here will try and tell you if you go to America, you're going to get shot by some crazed gangbanger or some trigger happy cop or some beer swilling redneck. You know, that's very much the seems to be the kind of agenda that the mainstream media is pushing over here. And she said when she went over there, she said the total opposite. She said I was made to feel so welcome by absolutely everybody. And like I say,
Mm-hmm.
I've found that with companies I've dealt with in the States. They have always been so friendly and so appreciative of business that you come away feeling like a king.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like I think in like, our business, I mean, you think about how many people shoot archery here or in the world,
Yeah,
and then what percentage of that percentage shoots traditional archery?
yeah,
I mean, it's a real small sliver of the pie. And the traditional community especially is such a tight-knit community
yeah,
that, I mean, if you get a bad reputation or you have an issue with a company, it really doesn't take that long to get around to everybody. And I've, I'm blessed that, people want to buy stuff that I make and I make a living from it. So, I mean, yeah, they kind of are king because, they're paying my light bill next
Mm-hmm.
month, you know? So,
Customers
and I
are
want
everything.
people to be happy with something that I make.
yeah,
And I think that's just a pride thing, you know? Um, and then, like you were saying, Maddie coming to ETAR and stuff like that. I mean, truly, like when me and Courtney first got in, to the traditional archery community, it was
yeah,
like you go to a couple shoots here and there and stuff, and then like you go to another shoot, and then you're like, I didn't realize I knew this many people, or this many people knew who I was, and it's
yeah.
like it literally is like
They
a
become
family
fans.
reunion. It's just one big family, and that's the nice thing about like going to a show or like Kalamazoo. Um, you work all day at the expo, but afterwards you go back and you hang out at the hotels with all the other vendors or all the other people that are there for the show. And, you sit down and you have some beers and some libations, and it's just, you're catching up. Hey, how you been the last, 5 months? How was your hunting season? How you been? How's the family? I mean, it's truly like I could call a dozen people right now in this community and say, hey, I need something,
And they'd
Yeah.
be there.
and they would be there for you.
That's awesome to hear. That is.
And it's probably way more than a dozen,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh, they're family.
I
They
mean,
become
Yeah.
family.
they give you the shirt off their back, and that was one of the things. Like when people, we announced that we bought St.Joe. I mean, I have many good friends that are bowyers, and friends that manufacturers like Eric McKee from Great Northern, Debbie and Andy from Selway, Randy Cooley from Safari Tough, and all Johnny and all the people from Three Rivers Archery and stuff,
Yeah.
and like. I mean, the phone was ringing off the hook. It's like, hey, if you guys
Wow.
ever have an issue or need something or need any advice or you run into a problem doing something, just call me
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and I'll help you through it. And just like the amount of support we got, like when we first took over, and the continued support we've got since we've taken over, I mean, it's just tremendous. It's amazing.
It's
I
like
mean, like
almost
what
like
other
everybody
company,
wants to lift everybody, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what it is. And it's like how many industries could you? Okay, I make bows, and Mike and Dave make bows. I could be having an issue and I could make a phone call and they'd be like, do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
What other community are you in that you can call? I mean, yes, we're friends. Yes, we're competitors, but we're friends,
Yeah.
um, to where they're going to help you solve an issue, to where if any other industry, you could call somebody up and they tell you go pound sand. Well, why
Yeah.
would I help you? I'm trying to bury you. you know, and it's just in that traditional community, I mean, everybody's there to help everybody. I mean, like Eric from Great Northern Quivers and Debbie and Andy, from Solway. I mean, they're good friends.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm having issues with this rubber, this foam hood or whatever. What are you doing? What can we do better? Type of thing. And they are direct competitors, but I mean, they're friends.
It's almost like that this one of the few industries where they've realised that if everybody succeeds, it grows a sport. There are
Right.
more customers, and everybody benefits.
Right, and that's what, especially in the traditional community, it's all about. I never noticed it as much. When I was younger, I shot sporting clays competitively for a long time, and did a lot of compound stuff, but I never saw that care and worry about the next generation as you do in the traditional community. I mean, you go to an event and the amount of kids you see out shooting bows, or their whole families there shooting bows.
Yeah.
You just don't see that in like any other, community, I feel. And I mean, it's great because everything we do is kind of to make sure what we love to do continues on. Especially in like the hunting community, like I want this to continue for generations down the road. Like the generations before me made sure it continued, so I had the opportunity to do it.
From what I've heard, this is one of the few benefits that seems to have come out of COVID. Up until then, hunter license numbers were going down and down. COVID hit, we had lockdown, and all of a sudden people realised, oh shit, there's no meat in the supermarket. What do I do? And that seemed to drive more people to look at this. And how accurate the figures we get over here are, I don't know, but it seems to be almost creating a renaissance in hunting, and license numbers starting to go up now.
Yeah, and there definitely was a big spike during lockdown and stuff like that. I think at all the outdoor recreation, I think it's starting to die back down again. The biggest issue with us here, I think, in the States, as far as hunting, is just access to land to hunt.
Yeah.
Like when my dad grew up, in a rural community, you could walk and hunt anywhere you want, especially bow hunting. Nobody bow hunted back then. And, they might have gone, the farmers and their families might have gun hunted for, the first couple of days of gun season or over Thanksgiving break or something like that. But if you were a bow hunter, you could just go knock on the door and go ahead, have fun,
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I grew up in the same place my dad did. And like, he could hunt anywhere. And that, as I was growing up, each and each year I had less and less access because, especially, in the Midwest and stuff, a lot of this stuff people are paying leases on just for hunting. And, hey, if the farmer can lease us 40 acres for, $3,500 for the deer season, why would you let anybody come hunt it for free?
Yeah.
And, growing up, I was lucky to have, my parents' property and then the state game land behind my parents' property and a couple other small pieces to hunt. But once I was 18 and moved out and moved to a different part of the state, I hunted, I hunt pretty much all, public land now. And, we had a couple good spots, private spots we could hunt for a few years. We eventually lost those because, people have died and ownership's changed hands. And it's an access thing. And it's kind of ridiculous. I'll probably tease some people off in saying it, but I think the way that deer hunting is going here in the States will eventually kill deer hunting in the States, because it went from, kind of like the traditional, everybody had a traditional family deer camp.
Yeah.
Everybody went up north for deer season, because I mean, back then there was no deer in this part of the state. You called your neighbor, wrote somebody a letter if you saw a deer down here, and all the deer were north. And now that we have the population we have here, there's no reason for people to go north anymore or to have a traditional style deer camp anymore when you can walk out your back door or drive down the road and hunt somewhere. And that whole community of hunting, and that's what hunting's always been to me. It's been a community.
Yeah.
You get to go spend a week at camp, with your family and your friends, and you go hunt separately. But if someone's successful, the group is successful.
Yeah.
Hey, we got this many deer in camp this year, and everything was celebrated. To now it's to the point where, don't shoot my deer. Hey, I've got that deer on my camera. Don't, that's my deer.
Yeah.
It's everybody's just so possessive over game nowadays.
Thing with the target book.
Yeah, it's really kind of sad to see. And that's, luckily, my family we do a lot of hunting in the western part of the Upper Peninsula, and my dad's hunted up there since he was 12. And I mean, we have a traditional deer camp every year. The last 5 or 6 years, 5 or 6 years. I think about 6 years ago, I bought a big canvas outfitter tent that we set up. It's got a wood stove in it, and then we live in that for a week, and we have a camp. And the sad part is I wish I would have saw it in the heyday back then. But you drive, like across the UP, and you see all the old cottages and camps and little hotels and motels that 60 years ago in November would have been lined out the door for somebody to get a spot to sleep. And they're all decrepit and falling down, and nobody goes there anymore. And it is, I understand it's a time thing. People only have so much vacation time. I mean, from where we live to our camp is like 490 miles.
Wow.
And
that's half the length of the country I live in. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's in the same state that I live in, but it's just kind of that whole community that you get raised up in, and I think a lot of that community has been lost in hunting in general, but I think it's still pretty alive in the traditional community. I think that's what's so great about it.
And do you find that as more and more land is leased out, that you could just knock on a door and say, "Can I set a tree stand up there and shoot, please?" Do you find as more and more land is leased out and becomes unavailable, there's more pressure, hunting pressure on the public land?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to see it. I've said my parents' property box up to state game land, and there would be some people back there. Now, we were never home for like opening week of gun season here in Michigan because we were always in the UP. But I mean, like bow season, there was always like, okay, yeah, I know John's down there hunting, or, you kind of learn the guys that were hunting around, and it was always the same, couple trucks, you'd see your cars parked there. And, nowadays there's people everywhere. And to get to like the back of my parents' property, you have to hike. Oh, it's probably 3/4 of a mile upriver to get to the back part where my parents' property adjoins. And I mean, you never saw anybody back there hunting down on the river or anything. And nowadays, we'll go for walks and stuff, and there's a tree stand here or a tree stand there. And it's just, I think there's a lot more pressure because, an average Joe isn't going to spend that kind of money to lease a piece of property.
No.
And then, the other part of the issue is if you do get a good property and somebody finds out, you've got good quality animals on it, and stuff like that. I mean, someone's just going to come in behind you and offer that guy $1,000 more for next year, because they want the opportunity, at like a trophy class animal, or, it's deer hunting has become kind of the big dick contest here. And, that's pretty much what it is for the most part. And that's what I really love about the traditional community, because it's a lot more just, hey, everybody likes killing a big buck.
Yeah.
Everybody, but a lot of it's more, we're putting meat in the freezer, we're killing but we kill mature animals, I know guys that have killed world-class whitetails that'll shoot a 4-point with a trad bow,
Yeah.
and it's just,
Perhaps overbone.
yeah, it's just, I think, every animal you harvest is a trophy, but I think when you can do it with a traditional bow year after year after year, I think that's kind of the sign of like a true woodsman. And if you can figure out that part of the game, then I think you're at the highest level you can get to.
Like I watched a podcast with a guy named Greg Krause as a guest.
Yeah.
Was it? I can't remember that Hunt NG. Is it where I've spoken to Greg on Instagram a few times since I had Maddie on, and he went from shooting compound to for about 15 years shooting compound and trad to now he just picks up his trad, and he said it's made him a much better woodsman and a much better hunter because you have to be that much closer. It really does hone your woodcraft skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Greg killed a bear with the stone point last year, didn't he?
Oh, I've got to finish watching that because I've watched about 3/4 of it. I've got to finish watching it.
Ruin it.
Oh no, that is next level trad, isn't it? If you're napping obsidian or flint, and then you're taking them out with that is that is the I'm sorry that you are swinging the biggest dick and swinging the biggest ball. If you nap your own head and you put a bear on the deck with that, you are king dick for me.
Yeah,
there is no ifs or no buts.
And that's the thing with like the traditional community, hunting community. I think, people are so humble. You can talk to guys like, Monty Browning or Jim Eckhout or Brian Burkhardt or, any of the guys that have just done amazing things. Randy Cooling, and you can sit there like, how was your season? Oh, I shot a doe. Well, tell me about it. And it's like, you're sitting there talking, to some of the best, traditional hunters in the world. And, what they've done, but you'd never know it.
They're so relaxed.
If you didn't know, there's some guys that are, you see them at events and stuff like that, or, talk to them here and there. And then it's like the amount of world-class animals that they've killed with a stick and a string. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And you never know. And, and if you go to, different, rifle or compound hunting, shit, that guy would have told you that the first thing he walked through the door, probably, and they're almost embarrassed about their success sometimes,
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Oh, I say from everything I've seen since I said I was going to try trad, the number of people that have been, thank God for that. It's like, woo, here we go. Right, there is a question I wanted to ask you. A while ago, I had the digital media officer of IFA with me, and we were discussing Chinese equipment, and we said this could be. I was trying to look for a positive, and my positive was this is a gateway to bring people in, to get them shooting affordably, where they're then going to step up to custom equipment. If I've bought a Chinese aluminium riser, I've put good limbs, but if I get on with it, I'm then going to want to look at stepping up and looking at maybe a custom ILF riser. Or do you think that Chinese equipment is a cheap way in to get people hooked in, where they will then want to move up and go to custom equipment and come to bespoke firms like yours where they can order a custom bow? I know
I
it's probably a very unpopular opinion I've got. But I'm
no,
thinking,
I
is
don't
it
think
that
it.
hook to get them in the door?
I can see it both ways. I can see it to where if you're a young person, and to be honest, there's lots of people that can't afford $1,000 custom bow. I
Yeah,
100% understand that. Um, and I would rather they shoot something like that than just go, I'll never be able to afford to do that.
yeah.
Um, so yes, I think it's a good thing to get people hooked. Um, kind of bring them in, and to be honest, any hobby you're starting out, you don't want to drop a bunch of money to find out that you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
You know, and um, are the black hunters are they the best thing in the world? No. Is there little things you can do to them to make them better? Yes. And you can do it at home. Put a better string, put a good string on it,
Yeah.
radius the shelf a little more. Make sure you check your limbs, are tillered properly, that they're actually the right weight that you ordered. um, and stuff like that. And then there's the side of it I see a lot too that kind of gets frustrating when somebody says, like on one of the Facebook groups, hey, I want to get a custom bow made. What do you guys think? And they go, and then there's 10 guys that go, just buy a black hunter. They're just as good as anything out there. And it's like,
Come on.
hey,
No.
somebody's trying to take that step and support somebody,
I've got
here
a
in the
black hunter.
States.
It's a lovely little bow to shoot, but it isn't a custom bow.
Right.
It's like, are you going to buy if you want a pair of handmade shoes, you're never going to compare a pair of flip flops to a pair of handmade shoes, are you?
Right.
Right.
And you're not just getting a homemade or a custom made bow. You're getting the opportunity to at any point in your life to pick up the phone and say, hey, Austin, what do you think about this? Or
Yeah.
what do you think I should do with brace height? Or, what do you think, I should start with arrows for? Or, that type of stuff. I mean, just the amount of, customer service you get along with ordering those
Oh,
types
yeah.
of
You're not
things.
going to pick up the phone to China and say, hello, Mandarin Duck, what spine arrows do you recommend? Or I've
Right.
got this
I
problem.
mean,
How
Yeah,
are you
you're
going
not
to do
gonna.
it? They're
you're
cheap
really
for a
getting,
reason.
yeah, you're getting more than just a bow when you
Yeah.
purchase a bow from a custom bow year.
Yeah.
You're building a relationship. And I mean, some of the best friends I have now, I have those relationships because I bought bows from them,
Yeah.
and that it just gradually stemmed from that.
Mhm.
But I can, hey, if it's the way somebody can get into traditional archery and to join this community, more power to you. There's also lots of used bows on the market
Yeah.
that are just as good or better.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with vintage bows at all. You know, go to a show and look at, go through the trade blanket, go through the consignment rack, pick up a
Yeah.
$125, Bear recurve from 1976, and
Mhm.
they're going to shoot just as good
My
as
God,
a black
you'd
hunter
never
or
get
better.
one for that price over here. They
Yeah. Well,
stupid money over
And
here. I say, I mean, I've got a black hunter. My limbs I've got now are Uka limbs, but I bought this riser just to see if I could get on with single string and trad. And like you said, I'm not going to have just one trad bow. I can see I'm already hankering after a wooden ILF riser.
mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
thinking, the aluminium's nice, but now I'm thinking, right, I need a wooden one to feel really trad because an aluminium riser doesn't feel really trad, if you know what I mean.
You got to have a you
You
got to
gotta
have
have
a bow
someone.
with a soul in it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm all, I mean, I haven't even tuned the arrows for this bow I've got now. With tuning arrows tomorrow, so I was bringing some 500 spines with him that he's already got, and we've gone halves on a dozen each, 400 and 350 spines, so we can play with point weight and insert weight and let's get bear shaft these so well. I mean, I've got to work so much on a clean release. You know, I'm brand new to trad and I'm already looking at bare shaft tuning arrows. This could be a huge, huge car wreck. This could. But I'm already thinking, right, yeah, wooden riser, wooden ILF riser. And then I'm thinking, well, you can get these mass produced ones or for a little bit more. And then you think, shit, no, that's not a little bit more. But if I cut down on this, I can save some money for that. And I'm already kind of looking westwards to the States to look at ILF risers. I'm thinking that cheap riser there and that cheap Black Hunter now has got me looking that way to spend. Like I can see the spend creeping up here already. Yeah, that's how I look at this. This cheap stuff's got me in, and if it hooks me like I think it's going to, I'm looking westward to the States to see who's making what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
there's definitely
I
a
can
lot
see
of
this
great options here.
the bows I can see being as expensive as compound, but its accessories are on. You haven't got to buy peep sights, you haven't got to buy lenses, you haven't got to buy clarifiers, you haven't got to buy a new sight, and
Yeah.
string costs. My God, I was looking at 200 quid to restring my Prime.
Mm-hmm.
I've paid 21 quid for an endless loop, 18 strand, 81 25 string. Although in fairness, I'm not over impressed with that. We had a really good Flemish twist string maker over here, Jim Kent, Grizzly
Oh
String.
yeah, Grizzly. Yeah.
He became a victim of his own success. He got so big, his strings got such a fantastic reputation that he couldn't keep up, and he hadn't got time to train anybody. So now he's back working for Merlin, but I can't. He was really the only recommendation for making a string for these Uka limbs. So I bought this one from an endless loop. This is supposed to be a really good string maker, but I phoned them up. I said, "No, sorry, we don't do Flemish twist. Can't do them. We only do endless loop." And it came, and I looked, and tomorrow I've got to wax it and burnish it. Of course, you know how a nice string looks round.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like loose,
Little
flappy
flat
strands.
still.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, nah. I'm looking westwards. Either I think uh, Triple T or Mountain Muffler. But
Mm-hmm.
George did say your string guy's really good.
Yeah, I'm really happy with who's making our strings right now. I mean, it's just like bows. There's a lot of good guys making
Yeah.
strings. You know, we shoot Flemish twists, and that's pretty much what we care. We put on all our bows. There's nothing wrong with an endless loop string,
No,
especially
I
if you're
want a
shooting
Flemish twist. That
recurves.
feels trad.
Yeah, no, I mean they look nicer.
Yeah, they do.
They do actually. They look lovely.
No, and I've ordered strings from Trevor at Triple T before. They're great strings. Mountain Muffler's good strings. There's a lot of good choices over here.
Mhm.
It's just, you kind of get into that niche, like, oh, that's my string guy.
Yeah.
You kind of develop a relationship with them, and and I mean there's good strings, there's bad strings, but a string's a string, kind of.
I, that I would disagree with. I mean, I've there are only two string makers I'd use in the States for compounds. That's the Archery Shack in Anderson County, South Carolina, and Nick Dower at Unbound Archery.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic experience with both of those. I bought my Prime secondhand. It had a new set of strings on the week before I bought it from supposedly the premier string maker in the UK. And they're a bunch of junk.
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I think with especially compounds, it's I mean, and probably some of the best trad strings you can't buy because it's some old guy that whips them up in his basement when he needs a string, and you're lucky if you can get him to talk you, like, hey, can you make me a string? I guess so, but but yeah, there's just so many good options out there for strings, especially in the States. It's kind of hard, I mean, you'll know a bad string when you get a bad string. But I mean, a lot of the good strings, it's just a good string.
Yeah, I mean, I do want. I'd got no interest in making compound strings and cables for myself because that was just like way, way, way too complicated, and I've got too short of an attention span to do
Mhm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to have a go at making a Flemish twist. I am going to make myself a jig and have a go at making one at some point. And I never in a million years did I think I'd hear myself saying that. So this whole single string thing has just sparked a fire.
Well, that's one of the really cool things about the traditional communities, like you can make a lot of your own stuff,
Yeah.
or the guy who made, like, the stuff I hunt with. I know personally everybody that's made everything I'm using.
Oh wow,
You
that's
know,
incredible.
I'm good friends, with Eric at Great Northern. I use a Great Northern quiver. I'm good friends with the people that make my arrows. I know the guy that makes my strings. Obviously, right now I made the bow,
Yeah.
but
I should hope you know the guy that made the bow.
I know the guy who made my tab. I know the guy who made my arm guard. It's just you're taking like a little bit of your friendship in the woods with you every time you go out,
Yeah.
and it's cool to be able to use products that your friends make.
Thank you.
Well, my tab I've just bought because I like shooting 3 under. It just feels more natural for me.
We
It's
both shoot
Yep.
300, so
It's a guy I'd followed for a while on Instagram, and he posted a photo of this tab the one day, and I didn't realise it was him that made them. Tried to search the name, and you don't want to know what came up when I searched the name. I mean, he, his leather work he does under the name Dirty Gnome Leather.
oh yeah.
Never Google that. Never, ever, ever Google that.
Yeah, the coppers are probably ready to come to your door.
Oh, yeah. And I messaged him and said, "Where do I find these?" He said, "It's me. I make them." So and he was just straight away so willing to tell me everything about how a tap feels, how it different finger pressure has just it
Mhm.
absolutely blew my mind. And when I talked to one of my friends, said I'm going to look for a 300 tab. He said, "Oh well, I won't." He said, "I'll warn you." He said, "A good custom tab's 150 quid." And I'm thinking, shit. And when Paul told me I said, "Go on then, frighten me with the price of this." And when he told me, I nearly fell off my chair. So reasonable. But he said he'd been gifted the cordovan he was using, so he wasn't charging lots. Somebody looked after him. He was then going to look after everybody else. And I
Mhm.
absolutely loved that. So I said, right, take my order now. Take me money now. I want one of those, please. I'm going to shoot it the next couple of weeks. Because I sent him pictures of my fingers with a tape measure down and across the span. And he said, yep, I think that's the size you'll need. Send out,
Mhm.
see how you get on with that. And if that works, I'm going to order another one off him the end of the month. So I've got 2 tabs.
Yeah, no, I definitely I'm pretty good. I can keep track of my tabs pretty much, but it is nice to always have a backup one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, a custom tab in the States, I don't think I paid more than 45, $50 for, maybe.
50 is
Probably
Sorry about
50
me
is
waving
probably
my
the
arms. I
high
was
end,
just trying to walk in.
you know. And we shoot, Courtney and I both shoot the Safari Tough tabs that Randy Cooling carries. Those are super good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I shoot one of my buddy's tabs, Rob from R&D Leatherworks. I shoot one of his tabs, and it just I love them both, and it's just whatever one I find first that day. Usually,
You gotta work it in, and then it gets really good.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about it. A good tab with cordovan leather is, I mean, it's like a fine wine. The more you use it, the better it gets.
Yeah, I've been told get 2 and shoot them both in together.
Yeah. I always have 2 broken ones, and that's kind of why I just go back and forth, and I don't notice that they're both pretty much the same size. They have about the same feel on my fingers on the string, and then I can shoot good with both of them. So it's good to have options.
Yeah. Well, when I was told about tabs, the first thing that sprung to mind was This is my tab. There are many like it, but this is
Yeah.
mine.
I know when I don't have my tab because I'm not good.
Yeah. No. Well, it's kind of, especially like after you shoot them for so long, you look on the backside and you can see the imprints from your fingers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's all worn in perfect for your fingers. And it's, yeah, I mean, they start to look kind of gross after a while, but that's when they start getting really good.
And don't you dare throw it away.
That sounds almost like a good pair of shoes when they're broken in. You get new shoes,
Yeah.
put them on, and it's like, no, these are coming off. The other ones are
Yep.
I've got to put them back on because these fit perfectly. They
Yeah.
are molded to my feet.
Yeah, that's just how a tab will get. It'll just get perfect in your hand, and then most of the time you forget you're wearing the damn thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. I need to go. How did we get off over here when we were talking about? Didn't we start off about? I think Joy might be wanting to order another bow from you guys because she was asking. That's on the NFAS group over here. She was asking about two-piece flat bows because to shoot in American flat bow over here, it has to be a one-piece bow. And apparently, this was something that happened a fair few years ago. They specified a one-piece course. When I was looking on your site, you do glorious two-piece bows, don't you?
Yep, we do. We do two-piece bows. We do the ace hinge style, and then we also do a bull bolt, which is like the threaded style. And I know Joy was talking to me about it, and I think they have an issue with like the added weight to the bow, is what I understood, right?
That was an idea somebody mooted that the added weight may make it more stable and give you an unfair advantage.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, and that's what she was talking to me about. So I weighed some stuff out for her, and when you're making a two-piece bow with either a hinge or a bull bolt, you gotta I-beam it with a piece of a G10 or phenolic,
Yeah.
Just for the strength of it. And G10 as a material is heavy, and there's some weight, a little bit of weight to the metal components of a hinge and a bull bolt, in which I know a lot of people like a little heavier mass in a bow sometimes. I personally don't, but a lot of people do. Especially, I find that a lot too. People coming over from a compound, they want to feel like that weight in their hands.
Mass weight.
And, yeah, they like that mass weight, and I'm the opposite. I want to carry a broomstick through the woods, I with a trad bow, I don't think the extra weight would give you really any advantage.
Yeah.
It's I guess they're being real nitpicky at that point. I mean, because I can make you a bow out of solid wood that's gonna, I could use something heavy wood wise and come
Chunk of
close to
ebony.
the same weight as something with a two-piece takedown system in it with
Yeah.
phenolic or G10. I mean, some of the like the resin risers and stuff guys are using in bows. I mean, they're just as heavy as G10. And I guess I don't know if they'd allow that kind of stuff. I mean, it is a piece of wood that's reinforced with resin. But yeah, I guess they're kind of splitting hairs at that point, in my opinion.
To be honest, some people get so anal over a 50p plastic medal that it's almost tempting to say, you know what, mate, if you're so desperate for it, here, just have it at the start and be happy. There you go.
Yeah, no.
It takes away the fun, it takes away the enjoyment and the relaxation of doing it. And I just love being in the woods with good people shooting bows. I don't care what you're shooting, how you shoot it, just shoot what you enjoy and love it. Love doing
Right.
it.
And I'm just as competitive as the next person, but you're out there to have fun.
Yeah.
When stuff stops becoming fun, I don't know why people continue to do it.
No. I like
especially when it comes to a hobby.
Yeah, I like to be around people who've got a common love, a common passion. And it's always, like I say, a bad day in the woods is better than the best day at work.
Yeah, that's right.
Very true.
So you do longbows, you do recurves, two-piece longbows. Do you do takedown recurves?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I can do a takedown in all of our models.
And have you got any plans for an ILF riser?
Not at the moment.
Hang on, hang on. Can you hear my heart breaking? Sorry, I'm far too flippant.
There's a lot of good options for them out there right now. To be honest, it's not my world.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with an IFL riser. Hey, to be able to slap on a pair of 35 limbs and then throw on a pair of hunting weight limbs on the same riser, that's awesome to me. But I just probably not, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think my dream setup would be a beautiful. I haven't looked at many woods yet, but a really nice wooden ILF riser, 19-inch, with a set of the Morris Max 6 limbs. Those limbs just look, yeah. That's archery porn for me, that is. Those really big hook limbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a feeling that as I get more into it, I want to shoot more different styles of bows. I can see me wanting to shoot an American longbow. I can see me wanting to shoot a one-piece recurve. I can see me wanting to shoot an English longbow. I know I've wanted to do it for a while, and I've got to get on it this spring when the weather's warm enough to warm the muscles properly. I want to shoot a 100-pound draw weight English longbow and English warbow and get it to the full 30 inches of draw. Even if I only do 3 arrows, I'll know at over 50, I've managed to draw 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys over there that shoot those war bows are pretty impressive to me.
Oh, 3 of my friends do. One's had to give up because he's got really bad arthritis in his fingers. But 3 of them can still all draw over 100 pounds. I mean, we got Joe Gibbs over here. Hillbilly bows. His everyday shooter. He's 165 pound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've watched him on. There's
Todd's
a YouTube
Workshop.
channel.
Todd's Workshop.
Todd's Workshop. Yeah, that stuff's impressive.
Oh Lord, yeah. My friend Johnny's got good old Johnny Bucket. He's got 2 of his flat bows. One's at 108 pound and one's at 118 pounds. And he said a 108 flat bow compared to a 108 long bow, the flat bow feels like 20 pound heavier than the long bow. Of course, it's shorter. Mm-hmm. It looks like somebody's got a scaffold plank and bent it. It is huge, wide and really deep.
Yeah, I get that. That's kind of my style. I shoot, compared to what most people shoot over here, I shoot fairly heavy bows, and I like, longer long bows. And then, Courtney's on the other end of the aspect. She likes recurves. So,
yeah, there's something about the shape of a recurve. It just looks gorgeous.
I love it.
Yeah, I really.
They are sexy.
Of a recurve. I'm gonna have to have a look at your recurves at some point, aren't I?
We're getting popular again. We're getting a lot of orders for recurve.
Yeah, that's kind of a trend Tracy was starting to notice too. I mean, for a long time it was a lot of recurve or a lot of longbow orders, and then a recurve order here and there. But right now it's almost 50-50 for us.
Oh wow!
I mean, every month it's longbow recurve.
Yeah, pretty much when it comes to customs, and both our recurve models are good little bows, and good performing bows, and it just depends on what kind of draw you have to depend on what model I would point you towards. But
you know what? Well, I mean, I've got a lot coming up this year. Instead of going back to compound next year, I can see me getting deeper down this trad rabbit hole and ordering something, but it would have to be 2026. Wow. Of course, what I'd like to do is 2027. I'd love to get over to Utah.
That's we're going
We're
for
going
the
this
first
year.
time this year. We're gonna
I was
have
going to
a
ask you, are you going to ETARX? I mean, you were
Yeah.
at Kalamazoo, was it 2 weeks ago?
3 weeks
3 weeks
now.
ago now, yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, we got a booth at ETAR this year, so it's just we've always wanted to go just as shooters.
Yeah.
It's always right around when we have one of our big state shoots here, so it's kind of hard to go to a 3-day event and then turn around and take more time off work to go out
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. But yeah, we're going to be there this year for sure.
Oh, see, and if you got a booth, you've got the perfect excuse, because it's business, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all kind of stuff at
Yeah.
this point.
Bring our bows as a tax write-off.
Yep. So, Courtney, you're going to get more and more involved in the workshop, are you?
Oh yeah, and I'm out there every chance that I can get now, and I'm only working. I work 410, so I'm out in the shop on Fridays and on the weekends when we need it, and at all the shows, and I'm pretty involved, and I'd like to get more involved in the shop.
Yeah.
But
Well, so I think Tracy was America's only professional female bowyer, wasn't she?
yeah,
Yeah, there's a couple more out there. But yeah,
it's
I
not
mean,
very common.
yeah, not very
Yeah.
common at all. I mean, pretty much the only standalone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for some reason a lot of people think Dave was making the bows and stuff, but no, he wasn't.
It was mainly Tracy.
It was 99%
Yeah,
Tracy. And
I
then
learned
Dave
that on
was,
Angels podcast that it was Tracy doing it. But you'll
yeah.
carry on that mantle, Courtney.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I
Excellent.
love working with the kids and the girls, and seeing them get their first shots in, and the light bulb going off, and I just love it.
I think that's it with regular. Right, how do I put this? Compound seems like a job.
Mm-hmm.
Trad seems like a passion.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. And
Because you've built that bow, you've helped build that bow. There's a bit of you that stays with that bow, whereas with a compound, it's produced by a machine. Yeah, it's assembled by a person, but at the end of the day, it's produced by a computer-controlled machine, and everything in a proper bowyer's bow, like I say, not so much a mass-produced, like I say, that a CNC'd, even the wooden stuff, but bows like you build and Black Widow build and Dryad build, and they're real works of art built by craftsmen. So there is definitely it's a way of life, not a job, isn't it?
Oh,
That
yeah,
that
definitely.
passion
Yeah.
goes with the bow into the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Or have I just got an overly simplified and romanticized view of trad?
No, I mean that's
It's
kind of what
become
it's
a
like.
lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
who we are now, and it's
Yeah.
just it's a part of us. It's a big part of our lives.
Yeah, but what it's like I say, it's not often I stumble for words. I stumble over my words, but I don't stumble for words. But yeah, it is like it's a calling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a calling, and like I say, you build those relationships with that customers. That when you go to a shop and buy a mass-produced bow, yeah, you get on well with the shop owners, but it's not like having a conversation with the person that designed and built that bow.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like next level. So I can see me going down a really, really deep rabbit hole. It's going to be like the journey to the center of the earth. Because I'm not going to shoot my compound for at least 3 months because I want to get a handle on single string in it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm wondering, am I going to enjoy shooting my compound as much as I do?
Nope.
Because I like I'm a very impatient person. I'm really impatient and inherently lazy. And compound's a fast way of being reasonably accurate. And I think I'm going to have to work harder with the trad, but I think the result of that work is going to be greater play, greater reward in being able to hit what I'm aiming at.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100% it is. And it's just, it's kind of neat. Like when you start out, you can kind of watch your progression to where, you watch those groups kind of tighten up or those
Yeah.
distances stretch out a little further. And if I have one piece of advice for you as you make this transition, is if you're shooting your bow and you're starting to get frustrated, you're done for the day. Hang it
Right.
up.
Yeah.
I've been there many times.
Just as much as you want to will that arrow, will that next arrow to go right where you want it to,
Yeah.
you're just hurting yourself. It should be fun. It should be relaxing.
Mhm.
It should be therapeutic. When it gets to that point where you're getting aggravated or frustrated or going, what the fuck am I doing wrong now?
Yeah.
Everything feels good.
Yeah.
Just go put it away for the day and then do it again tomorrow.
Mhm.
And you're going to have those days
Yeah.
where you can't do anything wrong. And then the next day you're going to have the day where you can't do anything right.
Yep.
you know,
I think I'm going to try and approach this in a logical method. I'm going to start close.
Yep.
Yep.
And then when I can get good groups at 5 yards, step back to 7 yards. When I can get good groups at 7, step back to 10 yards and just progress my way back and learn the flight of that arrow. So at the moment, I'm planning on gap shooting, but I'm thinking if I gap shoot enough, is that going to be almost instinctive then that I just, at that distance, I know where I've got, I can feel, you know what I mean? Feel the shot rather than gun sight.
I'm not the one to talk to about gap shooting because I couldn't hit the side of a barn gap shooting at 15 yards. I've tried and I can't do it. I'm weird that I shoot 3 under and then I shoot pure instinctive.
Yeah.
But I've tried shooting split. And I shoot 3 under more consistently.
Mhm.
But I can't. I've tried to, gap shoot and use the end of my arrow, and I couldn't put 2 arrows in a pizza box at 10 yards probably.
Yeah.
Right after each other, gap shooting.
So I'm just wondering. So I mean, I've heard the argument before that is instinctive, learn gap. Just you've done it that many times, you just don't even have to think about it. You just think that's there, bosh, away it goes, and it's in the target.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's so much for me to learn. I'm just trying not to overload myself with information and trying not to run before I can walk. I'm trying to stick to a logical, ordered sequence
Mm-hmm.
that let's say I'm not going to get frustrated because I'm not going to get straight out to 40 yards and thinking, well, why can't I hit a 4-inch group in 2 weeks at 40 yards with this trad bow?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be learn and progress and accept that I am going to have to learn some patience. And it's not as easy as hold a pin on and squeeze a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's all me.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things that helped me out starting out was, basically blank bailing, but I think it was one of the Masters of the Barebow DVDs. You just take a piece of like masking tape or painter's tape and put it, horizontally, on the target, and you're just trying to get your left and right figured out, or your up and down figured out one at a time, and then, move to the next step. And I shot thousands of arrows at, I don't know, 7-8 yards.
Yeah.
I was shooting probably close to 100 arrows a night some nights. And, you just gradually and with being instinctive, all I was doing at that point was connecting, my big dumb head to my hands. So, um, but I think once you can get those two connected, it can kind of surprise you what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a lot of the World Fields, and those string walkers, they're almost as accurate as a compound, guys. And I'm like, all right, then I always thought trad bows weren't accurate, but my God, look at what these guys are doing. And then you look at the videos from ETAR and things like that, and you look at the groups they're putting in, and
Mm-hmm.
at appropriate distances, they're every bit as accurate as a compound.
Well, I mean, if they weren't, we wouldn't be here, would we?
Yeah. And so you think, yeah, it's all come from this is what furthered our species. This is how
Mm-hmm.
we fed ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
And without that, like you said, as a species, we wouldn't be here today. I think part of the compound route was instant gratification. It's a lot quicker to get reasonably accurate. Not
Mm-hmm.
very accurate, but to hit a dinner plate at 40, 50 yards, it's a lot faster process with a compound than it is with a trad bow. But then again, I think you get that degree of accuracy as well with a compound. Suddenly you're finding you want to get 6 shafts stacked right against each other at 50 yards. I've never got that good with it. But like I say, I think there is something that appeals, and it was just the passion that Maddie had got for it, and the passion that Lee, the trad sniper, had got for it. And I thought, you know what, I can't not give this a go. And like you said, it seems a natural progression that it's got its hooks in me. I think now it really has. It's every bit
I
as
think,
expensive as compound.
it's kind of like a drug, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think a big thing with compound guys is they're constantly comparing themselves to the next guy or the guy they're shooting with. And I don't see that in the traditional community.
Mm-mm.
I mean, yeah, there's guys out there that are freaking smoking good shots.
Yeah.
And, people respect them and stuff like that. But I mean, you just go out and shoot with a group of people and have fun and laugh at each other and, hey, good shot, that was a good shot, or what the heck were you doing?
Yeah.
We're going to spend 15 minutes looking for that one,
Yeah.
and, and like in that setting, you're there. It's just a big community to where, like I said, I just don't see that in some other communities, and I could be wrong because I never got that involved with some of them. But there's a lot of friendly competition in the trad world, and 99% of it is just good fun and pushing your buddy to do, something stupid or push them to be a better shot, or, there's no, I'm just going to go out there and wipe the floor with your ass. I don't care how you shoot, kind of mentality of it.
Well, I mean, this is one of the reasons I love archery so much, particularly the club I'm a member of. It is like it's been described as a social club with an archery problem.
Yeah.
In that we'll just go out into the woods and we go out for shits and giggles to enjoy ourselves and have fun and laugh and relax and unwind after the week and just enjoy being surrounded by woodland. It's lovely, and it is a perfect de-stressor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that's what it should be.
Yeah, that's what I love about it, and it's a leveler. Nobody cares what job you do. Nobody cares how big your house is, how new your car is, how many inches wide your TV is. We're all just there to get out and fling arrows and enjoy archery.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's like I say, I wish I'd discovered this when I was 10 years old. Of course, I'd have been like a pig in shit 10-year-old me would run with a bow and arrow. It's just, I keep looking back thinking if 10-year-old me could see me now, he'd be like, yes, go on, do it again. And good grief. Look, we've been talking for nearly 2.5 hours. How the hell have we done that?
Oh, I
Damn.
don't know. It's been
I
good
don't know. It's
fun.
been good.
Oh, what I want to know is carbons on your bows,
Hmm.
carbon arrows.
Oh, us personally,
No,
or
will your bow shoot carbons?
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. All our bows are fast flight compatible, string
Yeah.
wise. You shoot carbons, aluminums, woods out of them. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
The bows Joy had before she had the St.Joe bows, the bowyer that made them said you can't, these aren't designed to shoot carbon arrows. If you shoot carbon arrows, they'll blow up. And I'm thinking, how does that work then? Is he thinking she's going to be shooting 5 grains per pound? I mean, what's your GPP recommendation? 9 to 10?
Yeah, yeah. Anything in that 9 to 10
Hmm.
range
Yeah.
should be safe out of anything. Um, and I'm in that thinking. I mean, I'm a bow hunter, so
Yeah.
I like a heavy arrow. And the heavier your arrow is, the quieter your bow's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you want to learn that lesson real fast, go shoot with some compound guys that are shooting 400 grain arrows out of their 70-pound Matthews, and then
Yeah.
stick an 800 grain arrow in that bow and see how much quieter it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that with my Kuma. I'm limited to, in NFAS, I'm limited to 300 feet a second. And with my Kuma, I was having to shoot a 452 grain arrow to keep it to 300 feet a second. And a few years ago, I should have been going to Texas with a guy from Washington hunting. And I built a hunting arrow running a 190 grain VPA 3 blade,
Mm-hmm.
which was 502 grains. And I mean, the Kumas are quite a bow anyway. But with a 502 grain arrow, that thing's like, as the arrow
Yep.
goes. And that hit like an express train. I mean, we chronoed it, and a 502 grain arrow, I was getting, was it 288 feet a second, which was like insanely fast. But yeah, this is one thing I was told about brace height tuning. That's the first thing to get it quiet. Get your brace height just right.
Mm-hmm.
Watching some of these guys with even ILF rigs, it's like a suppressed 22 going off. They are so quiet compared to even the quietest compounds.
Yeah, I would. My younger brother's been a better bow shot than me my whole life. He was a college athlete. His hand-eye coordination is stupid. I mean, he can put him in a milk cap at 70 yards with a compound.
Yeah.
And we were out back shooting one day, and he said, "Are you going to shoot?" I said, "I've shot 2 arrows already." He's like, "Holy shit!"
I watched one of Matt Zernzak's film, The Push. It was called, I think it was The Three Arrow Buck. And he
Okay.
missed with his first 2 arrows and still got to put a third one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the bow was so quiet. And that just, yeah, I'd always watched compound hunting films. And even if they missed, the noise of that bow and the speed of that arrow heading up towards 300 feet a second, those veins, even the quietest veins, make an unnatural noise to a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And that deer's often running. If you've missed, you haven't got a second chance at him. He's gone.
Yep. I mean, it's not uncommon.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I've emptied my quiver one night on a group of deer, never touched
Wow.
one of them, but they never knew what was going on.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And it's not, everybody chases speed in that compound world. And in the trad world, I think a lot of guys chase quietness, which
Yeah.
in a hunting situation is much more important than speed.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no matter how fast your arrow off your compound, it ain't doing the speed of sound, and the sound of that bow going off's going to get to that deer way before your arrow does,
Mhm.
if he's only 10 yards away.
Yep.
Mhm.
So it does seem an altogether more organic experience.
Yeah.
I've seen of trad, and I can see me getting sucked into a really deep hole here.
It's an adventure, and you'll meet more good people in that journey than you'll ever think you will.
Yeah. On about speed, what was it? I was watching a video the other night, and I think it summed it up perfectly.
Hold on.
That sounds like a doggy having fun.
Yeah, the old bird dog wants to play now. Now she gets to go in her kennel.
Ah.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I've had Wendy come in and knock things over. Yeah. Speed sells, silence kills.
Yep.
And yeah, it does seem that the first thing I looked for when I was looking at compound bows was what's the IBO speed? And they make such a massive thing of it. And I've never, apart from folks just doing random chrono testing of bows with trad, you never see anybody, what's the speed of it? What's the speed of it? It's what does it feel like and how does it sound?
Right. And that's what, I mean, a lot of bows are, in the traditional community. I mean, you can put a bow in your hand and you go, nope, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
The feel, the weight, and I think the best analogy I've heard for trad bows is, everybody likes a different flavor of ice cream.
Yeah.
And, it's just a person's taste.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the two most comfortable bows I've felt trad wise was years ago. I worked in an archery shop, and Samick did two field bows, an SHT, which was a takedown, and every time I looked at it, I thought it said Samick shit, not Samick SHT. And the one piece called the Samick SHB, and the grip had got a palm swell.
Mm-hmm.
And it put pressure just there on my hand, and that felt so comfortable. And I've never felt another grip do that until I tried Danny's Dryad at the club on Saturday, and that put the pressure in exactly the same place. So I've got to figure out how to make a grip for my riser that puts that pressure right on that one spot there, because that feels so satisfying, and I don't know why. It's just I can't explain why that just feels so good, but it feels incredibly repeatable. It feels as though every time I know that pressure's on that one spot there, and my grip's the same.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking for. Is you want most of that pressure and that grip to be right there in your lifeline in your hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like. And I think with that riser you should be able to buy some different grips for that, can't you?
I can. It takes the Hoyt grip, so it'll take all the Satori grips. It'll take the Arcor grips for the Satori and the Jaeger grips for the Satori.
Yeah, so you've got that is the one nice thing about an IFL riser is you can modify a lot of things.
Well, that's why I went for ILF, because I figured as a beginner I wanted to be forgiving. So there's the adjustment to make it forgiving. And the reason I went with an alley riser was, actually, I better call it aluminum, hadn't I? Of course, you know what we call it, aluminium. We didn't forget the I. It's got the burger hole as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do decide I want to try it with something like a springy rest and an AccuTune, I can. But it's got the beautifully radius shelf to shoot off, and it takes the Satori side plate, bolts straight into it and fits on to give you that radius on the arrow pass.
Yeah, your sight window. Yeah.
Just gives you that nice radius on there as well. Of course, a lot of them are dead flat on there, the alloy ones, but this one was designed to take. It's Chinese doing what the Chinese do and copying in it. But designed to take the Satori side plate and seems to do its job. But like I say, I can see down the line. I'm already hankering after a wooden ILF riser. Like I said, it's just the aluminium doesn't look trad.
Well, the first time you shoot it in the cold, you'll want a wood riser.
It's got a nice wooden grip on it. It's got a nice wooden grip on it. That amazed me about compound. The difference between a hydro dipped riser and an anodized riser. A hydro dipped riser's cold. An anodized riser in the winter sucks your soul out through the palm of your hand. It really does. But yeah, like I say, there's just something about the wooden one. And Rob's on about he wants me to start shooting wooden arrows as well. I'm thinking, Christ, I'm on enough of a rabbit hole here. Shooting single string, let alone going down the wooden arrow rabbit hole. But
There's nothing like a good wood arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everybody likes good wood. At some point, no doubt, I shall give it a try. I mean, I've got a set upstairs that wouldn't be suitable for this bow, but I just wanted to see if I could up the FOC on woods by tapering them, and Rob lent me a tapering jig. Because a lot of folks over here shooting wooden arrows in NFAS, they're only shooting 70 or 80 grain points on a 375, 400 grain arrow, and I'm thinking they're saying they can't bear shaft tune. I was talking to my friend Simon, and I said, is that because there's so little FOC when that arrow hits the target, the back end's flexing and just snapping? They complain they're snapping arrows trying to bear shaft tune. So I'm thinking, taper them, go up a couple of spine, put a heavier point on, so your FOC's increased, and then you stand a chance of bear shaft tuning. Of course, that point should pull the arrow into the target rather than the point hits, it stops, and the arrow does that and snaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my woods right now they were like 760 grains.
Bloody hell!
Finished out.
What are you shooting? Telegraph poles?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're just 11/32 Douglas firs, and when it comes to broadheads, I shoot a lot of vintage broadheads, so I'm either shooting the big old Zwickey Deltas or big old Rothar Snuffer 3 blades. In that, anything from like 145 to 160 grain weight wise, but with I've got a 31-inch draw, and then I mean most of my bows I'm shooting are 60 to 67 pounds
with a 31-inch draw. Is that on the fingers?
Yeah. And so I'm running like 80, 85 spine woodies is what I'm shooting. Wow. Full length. And the only problem with me shooting woods is with my draw length. If I break one at the back of the point, it's useless to me. Yeah. It's just
you can't put a new taper on and stick that head back on.
No, they're just. I wish they made them a little longer, but I mean, there's a lot of I'd like to shoot some old vintage Acme shafts, Port Orford cedars, but a lot of those they only made 31 inches long, so that by the time I taper them, I can't even shoot them. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, those Douglas fir shafts that Carson makes at Sherwood shafts, I mean, they're pretty damn tough. I do some pretty dumb stuff with them, and they're pretty durable for a wood arrow. I think they're pretty hard to beat, and just the quality of them is amazing. I mean, I wish I had the time to make my own arrows. I really don't. I have a bunch of friends that make some of the best wood arrows around. Yeah, and I mean, when you get a dozen shafts from Carson, I mean, probably 75% of them you don't even have to straighten them; they're so straight.
Damn, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mind you, we've got there's a really good arrow maker not far up the road from me. Guy named Lee Anchors owns Heritage Longbows. Makes wooden shafts for a lot of the shops in the UK. Unfortunately, I can't get up there to try them to see what I'd need. Mm-hmm. Of course, he only opens Monday to Friday. I work Monday to Friday. He opens 10 till 5 Monday to Friday. I work 8:30 till 5 Monday to Friday, and he's not open on a Saturday. Of course, that would be my go-to place. Of course, he's got the long heritage longbows. He's opened a second side of the business called the Knocking Shop,
Oh, cool.
which is the wooden arrow side of it. Like I say, he makes arrows for a lot of the shops in the UK. So just unfortunately, I'm at work when he's open. He's closed when I'm not at work. Of course, that would be my go-to place to go and have a conversation and try wooden arrows for this one. But I'm going to master it with carbons first and then maybe look at wooden arrows. Because again, that's wooden arrows. I always said single string wooden bows are a kind of magic. Wooden arrows they're just a dark art. Wooden arrows are.
Oh,
They are a dark art.
And guys that can make good ones are, I mean, they're artists.
They're Lord Voldemort, Lord Voldemort and Professor Snape. Yeah.
Yeah, and the difference between a good wood arrow and a bad wood arrow is night and day. I think, like the sight I'm shooting right now, when I mounted broadheads on them this fall, there was 6 grains difference between the dozen.
Wow.
I mean, that's hard to do with a carbon shaft.
The best wooden arrows I've ever seen for tolerances were Joy that just had the bows off you. She gets insanely into building good arrows. And we went over to Rob's and he's saying, like, 3 to 5 grains across a set of a dozen woodies is good.
Yeah, that's real good.
Joy puts the first arrow on, weighs it, puts the second arrow on, identical weight, not even a tenth of a grain difference.
Wow.
Does it with all 12, and all 12 woodies are an identical weight. But she said even down to putting like a little bit of extra varnish on one.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've never seen that. I've seen them really close with carbons, but never all identical weights. And Joy had got 12 that were all identical wooden arrows. And I'm like, no way. I wish I could build carbons that well.
Yeah, no, and it's amazing. I mean, like the guys that I have build arrows in for me, I mean, they can tell you how many grains an extra dip of clear coat is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, or an extra dip of, cat paint or something. I mean, I glue all my own stuff on. I probably have variances in just gluing heads on by a couple grains, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
these were like, I'm just like, jewels on the floor at this dozen arrows. It's like, how do you do that with wooden arrows then?
Very careful.
And then you hate to go shoot them in the woods.
Yeah, that's... See,
it's like a gut punch breaking your first one.
If I built woodies, I'd want to crest them as well. I'd want them looking so nice. And I know they're just not as resilient as a carbon. And I would cry like a baby. I'll tell you what, I'd be like a Democrat on election night. I would be having a meltdown.
I felt that way, and then I just look at it now and go, Aerosmiths have bills to pay too. So
yeah. If I break any more, he'll be having a second swimming pool installed.
Yeah.
Got to pay for that Caribbean cruise somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And gas ain't getting any cheaper.
My one buddy delivered a set to me at a shoot one weekend, and I think the first time around the 3D course, and I play stupid games, so I win stupid prizes, of course. And I think I broke two
in like 20 minutes.
2 of them in like the first 20 minutes, and I brought him back to his camp. I said, "Are these covered under your warranty?"
Well,
he's like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I was shooting through trees and doing dumb stuff." I don't care what you're shooting. When you hit a tree sideways at 180 feet per second, it's breaking in half.
It becomes a fragmentation arrow when you got 12 deer to kill and only 1 arrow.
Yeah.
Well, we've decided, do you know about a baker's dozen in the States?
Oh, yeah.
Right, a baker's dozen's 13. An archer's dozen is 11 because no matter how careful you are, the first time out shooting a dozen new arrows, you always break at least one.
Yeah.
I like that.
So the archer's dozen is always 11 arrows. Just start out with 11 and you haven't got to break that 12th one.
Oh, that's
Thing
good.
is Aerosmith still gonna charge you for 12 if he only gives you 11 though to save you breaking it?
I feel a lot less bad because it's always that first one out of a brand new dozen that hurts the most.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last time I built a set of carbons, there's a guy on YouTube called Matt in Texas, and he was on about first bend indexing carbons. So I tried it, and the first time out with them, the first round in the woods, I had two Robin Hoods, one at 30 yards and one at 33 yards. I'm thinking, well, damn, that first bend indexing really does work, but oh shit, I've got to go buy more arrows now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, everybody loves a good Robin Hood until you realize how much it just cost you.
I'm a cheap ass. I buy cheap arrows. I pay, what do I pay? 39 quid for a dozen shafts.
No, that's cheap, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And their tolerances are about 3% lower than Victory's. And I'm not good enough to shoot the difference to 3% in tolerances.
Nope.
No.
That's a lot of and there's been a lot of really affordable shafts that have come out carbon wise here in the States in the last, 3-4 years. That I mean are tough and the tolerances are good.
Yeah.
Like Big Jim has that dark timber shaft out that takes all the gold tip components.
Yeah.
I mean, Courtney was shooting those for a long time, and I mean, they're tough. They're just as good as like those gold tip XTs or whatever they called them. And you could get a dozen for like, I don't know,
$60
$60 or
like
something, bare shafts.
Damn, that's good.
And then the nice thing about that is you can go anywhere and get inserts and knocks for a gold tip around here.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do all kinds of customizations that you wanted to do with inserts, outserts, and different knock colors and
So that's
and
the
stuff
thing with
like
some
that.
of the Chinese arrows. They're 0.244 on the internal diameter rather than 2.5, 0.245 or 246. And
Mhm.
although the Eastern Microlite Supernox fit in the back, no problem, you can't get an Eastern or a gold tip insert in there. That thou or two, I presume the knock compresses slightly as you
Yeah,
put it in.
it's got the
Obviously,
ribs on it.
the
Yeah,
insert doesn't. So you have to use their inserts or sand a thou off a
I
gold.
was gonna say that's what sandpaper's for.
Yeah. It's only the same as doing it with the, oh God, I've forgotten the bloody name now. Hoss. Oh, Jesus. Ethics Archery.
Oh yeah, well I used a
I,
lot of their components
yeah,
when I was
I
shooting
bought some of his stuff
carbon.
for some victories and had to sand the front of the arrow down to get the collar on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you just get that little bit
that.
of burr when you cut them that you can't feel, but it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, just stops it going over. Yeah. My God, we've been going 2 3/4 hours. I tell you what, I'd happily sit and talk all night, but didn't you? You've got spraying to do on bows, haven't you? I'm starting to get tired. I'm getting black rings under my eyes. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, and in the UK now,
Gotta be close to midnight there.
yeah, quarter to 11,
Yeah.
and I was up at 5 o'clock this morning. I'm trying to stay getting up early in the morning. I used to hate being up early. Now I love being up early purely because everything's quiet. It's nice.
Yeah.
And
It's just a grumpy old man in you now.
Oh yeah. The best thing about being over 50, I don't have to give an excuse to be grumpy. It's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. Right, where can folks find you, please?
They can give us an email at info@stjoeriverbows.com, our website, stjoeriverbows.com, and phone number 517-617-3658. And then we're all over social media too.
Yep.
Right, what's your handle for Instagram?
I have to make a new
Yes.
Instagram because
We're kind of locked out of it at the moment.
when you
That's
make
happening
a
to a lot of
business
folks.
Instagram account, it's tied to a personal account, and the old one's still.
Ah.
I mean, I can still use it. It's tied to Dave's Instagram account.
Yeah.
The old one. So I do need to get around to make a new Instagram, and that's probably honestly been the hardest thing about owning this company is I'm not a social media person. So
Yeah.
But you're good at it though. Yeah, we're all over Facebook.
I have to work at it to,
Yeah.
you know, I know it's a lot of the world nowadays, but it's.
We try to post regularly on Facebook and update. So.
I do try to do that, but
Unfortunately, you're running a business at the same time.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, suddenly you realise, wow, how many jobs are there to do here?
There's a lot.
Yeah, I'm everything. And we bought, we bought St.Joe from Dave and Tracy. We bought Thunderbird Epoxy from them too. So, I mean, we own Thunderbird now too, which is the epoxy bow finish that probably 75% of the bowyers out there use in the United States. So, yeah, I run two businesses full time.
Right. So, has Thunderbird got a separate site?
Yes.
Yes.
What's that one?
Thunderbird Traditional Archery.com.
T-Bird Traditional Archery.
T-Bird. Yeah.
Right. One of you two is going to have to drop all these to me on Messenger, please, so I can put them.
Yeah, I'll shoot the links over.
So I've got to get this in the show. All this in the show notes.
Yep.
Austin, Courtney, it's been such an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for giving me so much of your time. I genuinely appreciate it. Right, Aratune, I'll try and get this out tomorrow night if I can. The audio versions will be out tomorrow night on all your favourite audio streaming platforms, folks. You know where to get them. If you want to get hold of me, it's archerygeekoutdoors@gmail.com or just search Archery Geek Outdoors. I'm not going to list all the socials. It takes far too long and it's far too boring. So just search Archery Geek Outdoors and you'll find my lovely ugly mush. Austin, Courtney, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've had such an enjoyable evening. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Check out their socials. Check out the website. Go and buy a bow from them. Ask Joy. She absolutely loves her bows. She's sold all her other bows, and now she just has St.Joe River bows. How's that? Hey, Bubble.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Folks, thank you for taking the time to listen. Like I say, go and check out St.Joe River bows. I'll see you next time. Remember, stay safe, shoot straight. Good night.